Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 2026 DRC meeting. This time I'd like to call the meeting to order. This meeting is informal and designed to guide applicants through the process of obtaining a certificate of appropriateness or a COA for projects within the city's historic districts in light of the Historic District Design Guidelines. Applicant participation in DRC meetings is voluntary but highly recommended, and any changes made or suggestions taken by the applicant based on the discussions with the DRC are the applicant's choice. But the DRC makes no representation as to whether any changes or suggestions made during the meeting will be approved by the voting body, the Historic Zoning Commission. There are 9 items on this afternoon's agenda. When your item's called, please introduce yourself and generally describe your item in about 2 to 3 minutes. Let's get started. Item number 1, discussion of a window alteration at 113 2nd Avenue South. Carlos Zaraga. Welcome. It's perfect. Make sure your green button's on. If it's not, there you go.
So, St. Philip Catholic Church, we're looking to add a window to one of the existing facades. There's windows at either side of this space, so it would just be, continuing the series of windows, if you will. That's the wall that has no window. That's a view from where the crosswalk is. And if you continue on to the next one, it'll show you basically what the adjacent window looks like and where we would more or less like to put a window in that wall.
Okay. Staff, you have some comments for us?
Thank you. The proposed window appears to be on a non-historic addition to the St. Philip's Church and has some visibility from East Main Street as it faces the courtyard. The proposed window is intended to match the light pattern seen on the building with a 4-light window. The material of the proposed window is unknown, but it would be appropriate to match the material on the historic building or be a composite material with the appearance of wood. The material of the non-historic windows is not known, but it would also be appropriate to match the existing windows that are adjacent to it. And staff would appreciate feedback about the proposed alteration, location, and proposed window, and additional feedback as to whether the commission feels comfortable with staff proceeding with an administrative COA for this window alteration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We go back to the aerial view. Just make sure everybody's clear. There's sort of a hidden blue line there at the top. Took me a minute to find. So it's in that pocket there. Okay.
Correct.
Any comments, commissioners? Or I guess we're committee members tonight because we're not voting.
I would
Thank
be
you.
comfortable with staff going forward with the approval.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
And I can see why they might want it, and if it's matching the others and staff approves, I think that would be acceptable.
I agree too, as long as it mimicked the light pattern of the adjacent window.
Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with Bob on that when he says mimic that light pattern. What size, that's what I'm curious about. What is the size of the window proposed?
So the windows next to it are about, 54 inches by 28, 29 inches. So we would look for something that would fit and look either matching the pattern of the 4 panes or if required, putting in the 6 panes, just so that it looks consistent with what is down that entire, wall.
Because the reason I ask, on the inspirational image, the one that's superimposed into it, it's very large. The panes are larger, the light panes patterns are larger than the other one. But you're proposing they be the same.
I just copy and pasted one picture from what you see on there and moved it right over to the space available. I'm willing to, discuss what size you feel would be appropriate for the size of the wall. But basically that's the intent, is to have a window similar to what we already have.
Yeah, I think what you're proposing is fine. It, even to be the single pane, the single sash type of thing, just to have the 4 lights, as long as they're similar or the same in size of the one next to it.
Okay?
I think I would say to try and aim for the same width. And if it's only 2 lights high instead of the 3, I think
That's
that'd be okay.
Understood.
I think to me it's a light proportion question.
Yeah.
But, Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Would it be the same material and type as that one you're matching to?
If it's required, that's what we would do. You know,
I think that would be,
Yeah.
because honestly, we can probably find things that are more economical, but if it's what we need to do so that we can be in compliance, we want to be good partners with, you know, the city and what everybody sees and preserve the, you know, the historic charm and, you know, and add really to what we can offer here in Franklin.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
So this just would come back to staff then for their final approval?
Yeah, I think that's the question, and staff has always used good discretion if they feel like, even if somebody came back something similar with a window ad like this and they weren't comfortable, they've always been good about coming back to us. So in this instance, if, because it's does have a limited visibility, but has some, and it's kind of a copy of what's already there, I would feel okay in this particular instance. So,
Great.
I feel good.
I would just add match to size, match to window pane size, whether it's the 6 light or the 4, like the width of it, and then match the profile, which would be the depth of the existing one.
Understood?
And then staff could approve it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much
it.
for your time, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, item number 2 is one of my projects, so I'm going to let you drive the ship.
So are you the applicant? All right, we'll wait for the applicant to take his seat.
All right.
All right, so would you like to start?
I think if you want to,
So we're doing the discussion of alteration to the principal building at 908 West Main Street. Tyler Lamarinell is the applicant.
All right.
Tyler?
thank you. So we were here maybe 2 months ago. We looked at some just alterations to the front, which included just some maintenance things, roofing, some paint. And while that process is going on, we've kind of undertaken the sort of design project of fixing what has been done to this house over many, many, many years, most of which was a result of this becoming an apartment building at some point, which is kind of the 1920s edition, that box right there on the back. So this house, when you go inside, the first floor is all on one level, but the second floor has various levels and landings. So we're trying to make some sense of that, and really trying to bring back the original part of the house, which are the front 2 rooms upstairs and the front 2 rooms downstairs, with the kind of central foyer. So we were kind of attacking this re-layout of the interior with those things in mind, and to kind of accomplish some of the interior layout ideas that we had, we wanted to adjust some windows, which were parts of the old apartments. If you see the smaller windows, there's like pairs of double hungs with a big mullion there on the left. Those were under a kitchen. That was an apartment kitchen, which no longer exists. I don't know how long it's been gone, but 50 years, 40 years it's been gone. So there's all these smaller, shorter windows that were kitchen windows, and then some longer ones that are in peculiar places that were living rooms, which are now they're not living rooms, they're people's bedrooms. So trying to make some adjustments there. So this particular pair of windows right here, right above the trash cans, we're hoping to change those out to a pair of doors that goes into kind of the back side of the kitchen, which is going to become sort of a library. And the right-hand side there, you'll see, I think that's a 70s edition, maybe earlier than that. But that window will stay, and then the door with side lights and transom is like a rear foyer that walks right into a master bedroom. So it's kind of a weird place to have it, but it's been there a long time, so we're planning on changing that out as well, to a window that's similar to the size of the one right next to it. That window there on the left would be changed to a shorter window that would fit under the kitchen cabinets, and that is the kitchen now. The kitchen cabinets are kind of piecemeal around. There's sort of a breakfast room there. If you'll go back to that rear elevation is a really good place to see everything. So on that first floor, let's start on that very far right-hand side. You'll see where I've dashed in, that's where that old door was. We know that this part of the building is the most recent addition. It's a different brick, it's kind of an orange brick. Infilling that and putting a new window. Then as you move across, there's that pair of windows that we talked about above the trash cans in the picture, that those would become a pair of doors. There are transoms on this house on the front. Only one of them's original, which is over the front door, but now there's like a sunroom that's been enclosed. Then you'll see the dashed in where existing windows are now. Like I said, these were pieces of apartments, so kitchens in both locations. We're hoping to make a little more sense out of those and organize them with a triple here with some real space moles that look like they're go with the rest of the house. So it's a size that we already have on the building. And then if we keep going over to the left, there's some mismatched back door that we're hoping to swap out for something a little more appropriate. We haven't picked the exact door. And then there's a set of steps out that back door, which comes straight out the back. There's no landing. It's just steps. You actually have to stand on the stairs while you open the door, and code doesn't really allow that anymore. They probably let you keep it, but we're hoping to just kind of redo it and have a proper landing. And then upstairs, you'll see that there's the double windows and the single window that are within that patchwork, planning on just flip-flopping those. And the idea there is that the pair of windows would be exactly on the center line with the front door. And the way the house was originally designed, you'd walk in the front door and be able to see up the staircase and out the back of the house. Well, we're hoping to bring that idea back where we're getting rid of all this back stair that was built for the apartments and some other oddities, getting that out of the way. So now when you walk in the front door of the house, you'd see all the way through the back like was originally made in, I think, 1881? So those are the changes on the back. And then redoing that canopy, there's already a canopy of similar style that's on the back above the back door, but it's very limited, so we're thinking of broadening it to cover the steps.
The stairs down to the
And
basement.
yes, you'll see a little dashed in area on the dirt there. There is a stairwell, external stairwell that goes to the basement. We're hoping to enclose that. There's an internal stair. And it's, they've got young grandkids and they're hoping that nobody falls in this hole. And not to mention that the whole driveway drains right towards that thing. So they've sort of built some walls around it. You see that little curb that's been poured, and they've recently poured more curb to try and keep some of the water out, but it just diverted it into that window that's kind of plugged up on the right. So just trying to do some maintenance things on the back that make this last a little longer, become a little more sustainable for the new homeowners. I think that's it for now. We'll be back with more stuff when it comes to outbuildings and things, because there's a whole story there. But love your feedback on what we're hoping to do. And I would say all these proposed changes are all on the rear of the building. There's the one window that's on the side, but it can't be seen. It's that window there, and it's totally blocked from because of all the additions. So while it is technically facing the side, it's not visible from any street view. So welcome your feedback. Anything you
Howard?
want to add?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Tyler. Staff, do you have any comments?
Yes, we do. The work on the rear of the building is all supported by the guidelines and could be administratively reviewed and issued a COA by staff. We'd like to ask the DRC if they would feel comfortable with the proposed alterations being administratively reviewed. And there are a few project considerations that were left whenever the application was being reviewed by staff and will be provided to the applicant with the DRC recap. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, anyone have any comments? Would like to start us?
remind us the age of the addition.
We know it doesn't show up on the 1919 map, but it does on the 1928. So I have seen accounts, written accounts, that it was 1924, but it's somewhere in that range. So it's old. It's a very similar brick, but not the original. So you start to see the story as you travel around the house. There's the main two rooms with the foyer, and then this. And there was a wood framed addition between 1881 and that 1924, which was moved back to Fair Street. We think it was
Yeah.
moved directly back, but nobody, I don't know. So this is, I don't know if it became an apartment building in 1924. It could have, based on all the windows and things. It was, the window patterns and the sizes are purpose-built for multiple kitchens
Right.
and living rooms and things. So I think it was built that way, but I don't know that any of us know. And I don't know how old the newest edition is.
40s, I think.
40s.
Yeah.
And are any of the windows old that are there?
I think some of them are. I think all the windows are 1920 something, whenever it was built, which is why we're hoping to kind of swap. And actually,
Right.
we're going to reuse some of the windows, and then some of that are new sizes or just have to be purchased new. But like the swap that's upstairs, the plan is to use those. And we're hoping that because we're swapping one for one, that we actually get the bricks to move too, so that the bricks match
Right.
perfectly. I think we have enough, I've done the calculations, that all the bricks on this section will be able to be filled. Our real challenge is the 1940s edition where there's the big opening missing. We're going to take that door and side lights out. That'll be probably harder to match, but it is a more common looking brick, a little more orangey brick, so.
I see on the lower level, like ghosting, but I didn't know, was there an addition off the back? Or is that just tuck pointing?
I don't know. I think some of it's been tuck pointed and cleaned, what they could reach. I know there's been a lot of patching up mortar work, because you can just walk around and kind of see that some maintenance had been done on the brickwork. Interestingly, this mortar is a little lighter than the original house, which had a lot more kind of fly ash black in it. And across the front porch, they've gone in and has little paint lines. They painted every grout line just in the front porch, but if you look outside, it's not. So some attempt was made to make this match the front or the front match this, but it's kind of a mixed bag of different bricks. That we know there's 3 at least on just the main house.
Kathy?
While we're talking about brick and mortar, and good point about the patchiness of it too, and you're gonna be punching a few more holes in it. Is there a path you've planned for dealing with mortar as a whole, once you start punching out?
Yeah. Well, the mortar will just have to be matched, and it'll take some experimenting with the mason. We'll just have to spend the time to come up with a mix, and you hopefully hire a really good mason that keeps track of his recipe, like an actual recipe, instead of just kind of winging it and hoping for the best. And that's where we usually come in with, there's colored mortars, as you know, that are standards. Generally, those get you close, but not right. And you end up mixing 2 or 3. But if you keep track of that recipe and how it's mixed, you usually have pretty good results. So that would be the plan, is to adjust these things as needed. And like I said, that part on this particular facade doesn't scare me. The one where we literally don't have enough bricks to fill that hole, we may have to think of that more critically and try and find a brick that matches, or have them dyed or something, a real specific thing there.
And that's on your 1940s edition.
Yes. Yep, that's
Yeah,
out
you
there.
can see the color difference.
Yeah.
Also, the HVAC units, we want to move all of those over to the alley side between the apples and us, so that all that back, there are 2 that are in the back. We'd like to move those around to the side.
And there's already some there.
Yeah.
There's already other condensers on that side. We're working on a site plan that incorporates a patio in this notch here that would come out of those doors and replace the stoop. We literally got the survey at 8 o'clock this morning.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I finally got it. So we're working towards that, but wanted to get your feedback on the window moves and openings on this back here to start.
Another question I have for you too is all the little arched vents, those are all existing?
Yeah, those all exist. There's a really big attic. So you see the ceiling line dashed in, and then there's this attic up there that's ventilated. That detail doesn't continue on the original part of the house, but it's just a weird place for birds to go and die.
It's an unusual vent application.
I don't know if that was a technology at the time, because there wasn't air conditioning. So you can see the original design of the house is very axial, and rooms very symmetrical with the fireplace in every room. And then this addition is, like I said, it was very purpose-built for apartments, so maybe those were the vent stacks out from bathrooms or something. I'm not sure.
Could be, I know that historically after World War II, there was a shortage of housing in Franklin, and a lot of houses were converted into apartments.
I think this may have even been before.
Yeah, it's early.
Could be after the Depression, who knows?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Or during it. Angela, did you have any comments?
No, I like the order and the symmetry that's being brought back. I mean, it makes sense visually, and I'm liking that.
Yeah, I would say because it's on the rear,
Yeah,
that it's appropriate to change some of the openings.
yeah, and to make it suit and I love the sensitivity to reusing brick and using the original windows when you can.
I had a question about the back door. Is the one that's there currently original?
I don't think so. It's got some, I'll say this, it could be original, but it's been meddled with some. It resembles something of the period, but it's had pieces added to it, and, it's peculiar.
Dog door, I don't
Yeah,
think
but
those existed back.
It's been glazed, and it has glazing trim like on the face of the inside and outside that's like protrudes. It's not like set in. So I know the glass has been replaced at some point. It's a weird thing. But what I drew is not very dissimilar, but it doesn't have a dog door in it and all the funny hardware. And so that it may be that we can find one that's very similar. But that was the intent, was finding something that's kind of Italianate period. The house started sort of federal and then got Italianated and has prairie windows on the front sunroof. I mean, it's got, so stylistically, it's like, well, almost anything goes, but just something that's works better and doesn't have a hole in the bottom.
Yeah, Italianate was pretty popular in Franklin. Another question has to do, so I assume there's a basement or a cellar? And you have another access to it?
Interior stair.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
Yeah, the basement is pretty, especially just under this addition has a basement. The rest of the house is crawl space, and every wall's triple wide brick and goes all the way into the ground. Even the interior rooms all the way into the ground. But this 1924 edition has a full basement under it.
And I know staff asked us about administrative approval of a COA on this one. I know the last one we did, very simple window in a non-historic portion of that building. But since there's so much going on this one, I wonder if it'd be better to have it come before the commission for a COA rather than staff approval. So I'd like to hear some discussion on that.
I think that's a good idea, only because I know this is the rear elevation, but still it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And, swapping this, swapping that. And then looking at the awning, which we were just talking about, in that door, it's getting widened quite a bit. And is that a electrical panel, like that white box in the photo to the left of the door?
No.
What is that?
We think it's an old delivery.
It's a penetration through the brick?
Yeah, no, it's closed off on the inside, but still open on the outside. You're talking about the white
Yes.
rectangle?
Yeah.
It's drywall on the inside.
That's where they
There's
delivered
no
the milk.
brick on it.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
It was a delivery, we're pretty sure.
Yeah, the delivery port.
Okay, so now that in the rendering and drawings, it looks like it's all brick. So it's another patch and fill
Yeah,
area.
yeah, patch that area.
But I think I'd like to, and then you'll have to rework the downspouts and all that too, depending on your window,
Yep. That's right.
reconfigs. But to me, that awning seems a bit, in your drawings, a bit large.
Well, what we're doing is, so we're trying to create a landing so that you have something flat to stand on in the door. And we're bringing the steps down each side, because there'll be garden on the left like it is today and driveway on the right. We don't want to come off the front because that's the backup space for the garage. And doesn't want to get any tighter than it already is. So, and then the idea was make the awning big enough that it covers the stoop and the steps so that if it's icy or snowy, it's covered. So it just covers that. We didn't make it, it is about 40% bigger than the one that's there today, but of similar style. It's just longer so that we can cover. And I think it shows in the side elevation, it's 4 feet deep. So it covers all the steps and stoop, makes it safe for them to get in and out. Because the house in the back, in the front, I think we're only a step and a half to get in. In the back, we're a full 4 steps. So just trying to make sure they can get in and out safely. That's all.
I would support it coming back just because there's so many windows, and if you could bring a sample of the window.
Sure.
And I would also, to Brian's comment, if a door could be replicated to look like the one or find one, just as a nod to what was there and what happened with that house.
Sure.
It is part of its story.
And I would say to what Tyler brought up too about the light pattern, that'd be a very unusual light pattern that's on that current door. So it probably has been altered at some point. So, whatever you think would be most historically
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah, we'll do some more research, and part of our thought was maybe it was a visit to Preservation Station or something, and find
Yeah.
a door that is appropriate for
period.
this.
Yeah.
And have it fitted with a modern sill and gasket, so it's really weatherproof, and just get a door that's a really nice door for the back here, so.
But it's exciting to see this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Let's go to item number 3, please. This is discussion of an addition on a principal building at 109 7th Avenue South. Mr. Lane is here with us.
Yep. I'm going to let the homeowner, Cliff Whitmore, open up some opening remarks real quick.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. This is our second time before the DRC, and this time I wanted to make sure I introduce Linda and I. We've been in Franklin since 1994, and we've been in historic Franklin since 2008. We thought it was important to share, too, that we value the historic beauty of Franklin and the charm of our own home as we enter this project. So in our original visit to the DRC, we took a simple approach, the most cost-effective solution to our primary need, which was a staircase. And you requested that we consider other options, which we have done. And as we looked at the options, we felt like we will do something very historically considerate with whatever we land on with your approval. In reviewing the options, we did consider solving some other problems, which you'll see. We also consider other facets, like the side of the home that has the best growing conditions, and the fact that all the plumbing and the water is in the back 10 feet of this property. And of course, budget. So our ask is that you give us as much latitude as you can, so that we can move forward with the project that best suits all of our needs. And thankfully, we've had a great partner in this, 906 Studio, and especially Jacob. So he is going to present to you the alternatives we've come up with.
Okay, thank you. Jacob?
So the house was built in 1892. There was an addition in the back, which is the kitchen right now. And that was in, was it 1908? And then we believe that the back of the home was also, at one point, a porch that was enclosed, which will come into effect with option C. And so as Cliff mentioned, option A at the bottom was that first option we brought to you guys. It made the most sense in terms of the path of travel through the home. It was the most cost-effective. And he had suggested looking at either by the driveway or in the back of the home. So we wanted to explore those options as well. Go next. So these are pictures of the existing home. Option A, it will be visible from the front, as we had discussed at that previous meeting. And then option B and option C are in the rear of the home. And so for the existing layout of the home, the main goal of this project is to get an enclosed staircase for the homeowners. The homeowners want to grow old in this home. Right now, you have to walk outside and go downstairs to reach the basement. The laundry is in the basement as well. So as you can imagine, in stormy conditions or in the winter, it just gets dangerous, especially if you want to grow old there. And looking at the existing layout of the home, there's not really any good places to put it in the existing footprint. The only place that would make sense would be the foyer in the back, but when you look at it, there's not enough head height to get a staircase in there. You'd have to remove that walk-in closet, and the storage in this home is already so limited. And so really the only option is to look outside of the bounds of the existing footprint of the home. So option A, we understand it is visible from the street, would also need to get a variance because it crosses the existing setback. We made it smaller from the previous meeting, but we also have explored options B and C if this option in no world in your eyes would make sense or be possible. And so there's the side elevation of option A. It fits in very nicely. For all these options, the siding will match the existing, the window sizes, the roof shingles, that'll all match existing. Option B sits up above, right next to the driveway. There are some concerns with what it will entail to add this addition here because of the existing HVAC. There's also existing, there's a water main there. There's the irrigation system.
3 irrigation pipes and 2 drainage pipes.
That will all have to be removed along with the HVAC in order to include it here. So those are the concerns for just the budget. But it fits in very nicely into that side elevation, recessed from the existing, hidden from the front of the home. And then option C is a little bit more of an invasive addition. It's in the rear of the home. And you will see in the elevation in the rear of the home, we will need to add a brand new roof over the back of the home. So as I mentioned before, that we believe it was an existing porch at one point that was enclosed. So in order to extend it out, that head height is so low already. And so to make that accessible space. We extended out the rear of the home, and then we added a little bit more closet space for the homeowners and the bathrooms, because the existing bathrooms right now are a little bit of a maze to get through. And then option D was just, if the homeowners with everything they wanted in this home, so more storage, more, better aligned bathrooms, what could we get? What's the most invasive option? And so since we are presenting the DRC, we want to go ahead and show you guys that as well, just to get your opinion. So this would be the most invasive. So what if we did B and C combined and added it in the rear? And so D would be the most invasive option. And so overall, our goal for this meeting is to, first of all, understand, okay, is A fully out of the question? There's no possible way in your eyes that could get approved. And if not, if the homeowners go and get pricing for this, it ends up being maybe less expensive than they thought, or maybe it's worth the investment. Would there be an appropriate route with option B through D, or multiple options that they could take?
Okay, let's hear from staff, see what they have to say.
Thank you, and we'd like to thank the applicants for coming back to another DRC. As it was mentioned, they'd previously come for feedback about location A, and it was deemed not appropriate by the commission and staff, as it would be visible from the front and atypical to the architectural style, and would require a variance, which one of 3 criteria would need to be proven to prove a hardship for not being able to locate the addition elsewhere. 3 other possible locations are shown in this plan and appear to be more appropriately located behind the principal building near and at the rear of the building and meet the setback requirements. The proposed sizes of the addition range from 78 to 207 square feet, or 4 to 11% of the historic footprint, so it's appropriately sized for an addition. Option B proposes an inset and shed addition. Option C proposes a rear roof reconfiguration to do a gabled addition. And option D is a combination of B and C with additional infill between the 2 sections of the building. Option B and C would involve the least removal of historic fabric, it appears. However, it is on the rear of the building, and there's some additional flexibility with additions on the rear. The primary concern is the alteration and complexity of the roof forms proposed to tie the additions into the house, as there is already a somewhat complex roof configuration on the back of the building. Feedback about which of the 3 options, B, C, or D, are most appropriate in retaining the historic form and the new proposed roof lines would be appreciated from the commissioners. As mentioned, the proposed materials all look appropriate, and additional information about windows at the locations of the additions and whether they are historic and can be reused on the addition would be helpful to know from the applicant as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone from the commission have comments? Kathy?
I'll get going on this. So, what is your preference, B, C, or D?
If we can afford it, C is our current thinking.
Okay. In hearing staff's comments and then looking at the drawings, but not really diving as deep about the roof, tying into the roof, the B and the C seem least evasive to the existing home. Not sure how that's going to affect rerouting, plumbing, and the HVAC and all of that. But it just seems that option D is like, we went to Disney World and back and just threw all the rides together. And I think that probably isn't the best option. But I get it's in the back of the house. And I'm not quite sure if that would really embrace the home and the property and your use out there for gardening and all the other things that you want. It's eating up a lot of space. And so that addition on the back in option, is it C? Yes. That's following an existing porch footprint?
It's extending it out.
Okay. Because that is larger than B, what you were offering as that option. I just was wondering about that as well. So I kind of leaning towards B and C, not D and because they're least intrusive on the existing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Laster?
And C is your preference
I believe so, yes.
of all of them, excluding A. We'll just put B, C, and D in there. You know, as someone who lives in an old house with very little storage, it looks to me like that would probably be would give you what you would like to have, your access to your basement, plus some extra space for your closet and other things like that for storage. And it seems to be the less, invasive and intrusive to the old historic structure. So, I would support you on C.
Good, thank you.
I would also, as Brian said, I would support option C. It would be out of the view shed of the front or even most of the side of the house and give you some extra room.
And I agree with all of that. Absolutely.
Mary?
I agree. The
Yeah.
house has high integrity, so that keeps it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think B or C in my mind is either one could work. C is a little more invasive because you do have to re-roof what is an old enclosed porch to get that gable to carry through. Is that correct? But like you said, if the budget's there, I think it's probably an improvement on roof line than this kind of hipped, closed roof porchy thing that was, who knows what it was originally. But, if you end up back at a B version for budget or otherwise, all I would say is, when you start getting planes really close to each other, these low slopes, part of it's metal, and I don't know if it's a rendering thing or what, but I would carry the metal all the way through or whatever. I wouldn't change materials, in the same plane, which sort of looks like that. And let me see which sheet that is. It's B, yeah. Page 8. If you zoom in the bottom left-hand corner, it's like, just put those on one plane and carry the metal through. It's on where that shed is, where it says proposed addition. Yeah, right there, that roof. But you may not end up there, but, I think it's low sloping enough. You might need metal anyways, but it's the only feedback I really have. Either B or C could really work.
Yeah.
Well, I think B, C, or D, I just don't think you're going to see it from the street. And I think
Yeah.
what the purpose was to keep this high-integrity cottage looking from the view sheds.
Yeah.
As wonderful as it does today.
Yeah. Anything else, anybody?
Is that a firm no on A, do you think?
Firm no on A, correct?
I don't think it meets any of the guidelines, so it's going to be hard once we've seen a bunch of things that do meet the guidelines. Is that fair to say? I mean, if
Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
he said a firm no on A, and I said, now that we've seen other options that are as much or more viable, and they actually meet the guidelines, there's other hurdles here too, as you know, with like, if we were to approve something like that, you'd still have to get a variance on top of that. And if you don't get it, you got to come back too. So it's like, you've shown us 3 other viable options. Well, really 2, and then a combo of the 2. So those just make more sense. And I think it's better for the house. And we're always trying to do what's best for the property and the neighborhood. So is that fair to say? Anybody?
Absolutely. I think you did a really good study here on other options, which is what we asked for to begin with. So I think you've made a case for yourself to not use A.
Yeah.
And again, too, when I'm looking at this from like homeowner or, to me, option C seems like it's a nice, neat, tidy little package. And it's just right on the end and in the back, and it doesn't interfere with major manipulation of various points around the house and the site, so I think you came up with some really good options, and thank you for the clear presentation and identify, because it's like, this is easy to read. This
Yeah.
one's, very, very descriptive on that too, so, which will probably make the next steps pricing quite easy as well.
Anything else? Thank y'all. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to item number 4 here. Discussion of an addition on an accessory structure at 3201 Herbert Drive. Christina James is the applicant. Hello.
Hi. How you
Introduce
guys
yourself and give us an overview here.
doing? This is Christina. She's representing the current buyer,
Okay.
and I'll be the contractor on this project.
What's your name?
Jeremiah Pack with Resurrect Construction LLC.
What was it, Beck? Jer-
Pack, P-A-C-K,
Okay.
Pack, yeah.
Okay. All right, let us know, tell us what you're hoping to do here.
Yeah, so the original structure is from 1830s, it's the front portion. And then, I think it was 2011, the current homeowner added a kitchen, a half bath, and a pantry area to the rear of the current, or the original structure. And then they also added a carport. The potential new, or I guess the new homeowner, soon-to-be new homeowner, wants to enclose the carport. So there's the current carport. They want to enclose that carport by adding 2 garage doors on the front, windows. On the right side to be all windows, and on the left side to be 2 windows and a double door. In addition to that, they also would like to add, just due to storage issues in the home, because there's basically
It's a log cabin.
maybe 80 square feet of closet. They're wanting to add 10 feet to the rear of the carport or enclosed garage for storage.
Okay.
Material-wise, we would, match as closely as possible to the windows. The doors that we're proposing on the side, the double doors, they probably wouldn't be the full glass. They would probably be the what's currently on the home on the rear that was added, which is a Craftsman style door.
Okay.
And then the siding would be on the addition they just did, I believe it was hardy, just a hardy smooth siding, or I'm assuming it's some type of hardy. And then we would just match, the roof as closely as possible to what's currently there.
Okay, let's hear from staff, please.
Thank you. So this property is home to the Herbert House and is a unique site with a non-conforming number of accessory structures. The accessory structure shown in this proposal received a COA and variance for construction in 2017 and can be legally expanded up to 50% of the principal building footprint and is considered the larger accessory structure on the lot. At the time of the approval in 2017, the plans included phased construction to enclose the structure, but that COA has since expired. So they're coming back to propose an addition and enclosure of the structure again. And so with the addition, this would be about 48% of the building footprint and is appropriately sized. And the proposed addition and enclosure of the carport appear to meet the guidelines, but some additional specifications on materials to making sure the lap siding reveal is consistent with the principal building and materials aligned with the guidelines will be needed at the time of COA review, as well as door and window specifications and possible lighting specifications. So other than that, feedback about the proposed addition and materials or design are appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, who wants to kick us off here?
I'll do it.
Mary, thank you.
This house sits on how many acres?
It's just under 5 acres.
Yes. So I think the location has forgiveness to do this. It is one of our earliest preserved homes. I would like for y'all to consider revisiting the garage doors to maybe blend a bit more with the time period of the house, something plainer. That's it.
Okay.
I
Anybody
agree
else,
with,
Bob?
I agree with Mary. The location, even though it's surrounded by development, is very secluded, and this garage would be I wouldn't say it'd be invisible, but it'd be, you'd have to really look for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Brian?
I would just say, looks fine. Our guidelines do support cementitious siding, but given that Breezeway has the age that it does, if you could find a wood siding, I think that would complement the structure better. So, I mean, that's just, and they do make modified, thermally modified poplar. There's all kind of products, out there like that, that would be have a long life and serve you well and fit the structure better.
I've just got to say, I had a long journey with this house. And it started out with there were dead blackbirds upstairs. And my now 24-year-old grandson, at one time, the name of this house was May's Dream House. But we're just so lucky that this house is still standing in this town.
Kathy?
The height, is it the same as the existing carport?
Yes, yeah, we're just literally adding on the 10 foot to the back,
I was
yes.
trying to zoom in
Yeah.
close enough to see it and what's happening.
I believe it's, I think they did it's 8 foot ceilings in that carport.
Okay. Angela, anything?
No, I agree with everything that's been said, and I think certainly the concept of enclosing this carport makes a lot of sense, and I think will be an improvement for you.
Yeah, I think that just following up on what staff said about garage doors and windows and things, make sure
When
and
you
bring
say-
those.
When you say garage door, you're talking about where the car pulls through?
Yeah,
or
yeah, the
doors on
two
side?
garage,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, where the car. And then the pedestrian doors too, just make sure you bring exactly what
The
you're hoping to
details,
get.
yeah.
Because whoever you get it from, if it's Clopay or you're getting windows from Pella or whatever, who knows where they come from, make sure and bring them. And compare them to what's on the original house in terms of profile and depth, and some of those things are helpful. Yeah, and then the only other thing I'd say is, these are just simple drawings, but, the eave details and things that, is it really a perpendicular cut, or is it going to have a gutter and it's flush cut? Those kind of things might make a difference. And it may be just a picture of the original house and go, we're doing that. Instead of trying to draw it, just take a picture and go, we're going to match the fascia and gutter of this. Because I assume it'll have gutters.
We're going to add gutters, yeah.
Yeah,
but
so-
half-round gutters.
Yeah, so just bring all that, and if there's a half-round gutter, bring a picture of it. Do all that. It just helps us make good decisions. But other than that, this all makes sense because it all falls within the guidelines.
Yeah.
And the variance still allows it. Is that true? Okay.
Okay.
And
Brian?
just one other it's nitpicky, but it's historically accurate. If you do your garage doors and you have the angled bracing, your bracing would actually come the other direction. Because the way those doors were made, the support came back to the hinge and not out to the rail on the where the doors meet. So, I mean, if you could find some that actually show a historically accurate, I mean, that would be a nice touch.
The V's upside down.
Is there where's a good place to reference that? Just drive around downtown Franklin and look at some of the garage
Well-
doors? No, right?
There were no garage doors in 1830. Had some carriages.
I would say, look at some carriage house doors. My reaction would be, Brian just told me something I wasn't aware of, but I get that, and I would kill the windows.
Kill the windows?
I mean, don't have the windows, that would be maybe a better way to say that.
Okay,
They just wouldn't
Wouldn't have
have
had 'em.
been.
okay.
If you've got all these windows on the side, maybe that does
Yeah.
what you need.
You've got plenty of light, and you really want the house to be the detailed part of this project, because it's spectacular.
Yeah.
I was just gonna add that, I said, good job on not creating a main house out of this thing. The beauty is in its very simplicity, and then maybe attention to more of the little details.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Anything else from y'all? Questions? Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Item number 5, discussion of construction and accessory structure at 109 Everbright Avenue. Asher Paxton.
Evening.
Good evening.
We're back.
Welcome again.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having us. So we sat in front of the HZC last week and got approval on 2 of the 3 pieces to our site plan in the rear. We recognize that the accessory structure, the largest of them, the garage and the kind of outbuilding, was over the percentage per zoning. So we've pared that back. This was a, I submitted this that evening, so there have been some adjustments since then. I can talk through a couple of those things. We'd love to just hear a little bit of review, but we wanted to show our face here. We plan to submit basically this at the next historic, and we've had a lot of comments from you guys, but are open to hearing any more that would be applicable.
Okay, let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As discussed at the last Historic Zoning Commission meeting, the design was ultimately aligns with the guidelines. It was just the size that didn't meet the zoning ordinance requirements, as it had exceeded 50% of the existing footprint of the principal building. And so it needed to be reduced to meet that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you said this particular version isn't below the 50% threshold, but it's, you've been working on it. You just had to submit what you had
Correct.
because it's like you have 6 hours to do it
Yeah,
or something.
exactly.
Okay.
So we've pared
Go
it
ahead.
back to 50%. I mean, about 6'2" is the number that we pulled the footprint back. And I guess one other change we've made, we've just rotated the garage gable end so that in that elevation 1, you'd see 2 gables. Kind of rotated that to kind of give a little bit more accentuation to the form. And then we're also planning to extend the kind of trellis pergola piece. That deck will go, and if you're looking at elevation 1, from that 4 slider door all the way across with kind of a pergola cover that will just add some outdoor space, uncovered completely though. That will not be covered there. It will be the right side of elevation 1.
Okay. So basically from that gable in elevation 1 all the way down that side
Right.
to the garage door.
Would just be a
face.
flat pergola.
Okay. Okay. Any comments?
Yeah, so you're reducing the square footage down to about 1,300? Is
Correct.
that right? Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Anything else, anybody?
I think it's responsive to the comments that were made.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for adjusting that, and it sounds like you're heading the right direction. We look forward to seeing it at the voting meeting.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank
Thank
you all
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now item number 6, discussion of site alterations at 115 Winslow Road. Jason Shapiro is the applicant.
Evening.
Good evening.
We would like, what our homeowner would like to do is build a pool in the back of a house that's under construction. It's a new construction, new build. The original plan from the architect showed the pool with 2 steps coming down. The homeowner wanted to raise that up. The grades won't allow for that because that makes the retaining wall 7 feet tall. We attempted that and are now in the adjustment process. We have adjusted everything so that the retaining wall height does not exceed 48 inches at the maximum portion, which is in that bottom right corner, bottom right corner from where we're looking at it. That would be the maximum height, and then it gets shorter as it goes to the front of the yard, and it gets shorter as it goes across the side of the yard. And then there would be a 3-foot railing to provide fall protection that keeps the total height under the 7
This is
foot.
microphone. Pull your microphone over just so you can hear. We can hear you fine. It's all the
okay.
people watching on TV.
Oh, yeah.
We're very, very
I-
famous.
Yeah.
I think my mom's one of them. I think Elizabeth's mom watches, or yours does. Emily's. Yeah. Okay. We don't want mom to be mad. Trust
Yeah,
me.
Mom's watching.
All right. So you.
So the
going.
guidelines are that the wall is 48 inches and the railing is under 7 feet, and that is what we've adjusted to, so that the height doesn't exceed 7 feet. We're hoping we can get a staff review approval on the COA. And ultimately, also, if you look on the far right-hand side, that green box is an electric box, and the homeowner would also like that height so that it hides visibility to that electric box from the house as he looks out at the pool.
Okay. Let's hear from staff here on their feedback, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The proposed pool was previously approved with a different design, and Elizabeth has it pulled up. So on the right-hand side of the screen, it shows what it was approved, that the COA granted reflects the design on the right-hand side of the screen, so that it was mostly an in-ground pool. The pool that is proposed today, seen on the left-hand side of the screen, will involve a 4-foot retaining wall and a 3-foot fence on top of the retaining wall. The guidelines recommend that site and setting alterations should be considered as appropriate when they are undertaken in locations that are not visible from public view, do not involve the removal of historic features, and do not detract from or overwhelm the context of the historic districts. As proposed, the pool retaining wall and fence will be visible from the right-of-way, and the proposed configuration is not seen within the historic district. I went out and took a photo this afternoon showing what, from street view, what it would be. And so Mr. Shapiro can clarify, but this is just the framing.
That's just framing, and it is also about 3 feet higher than it's going to finish, so it's all going to be down. And the homeowner is committed to landscaping the front and side yard to make it not seen at all from the street.
So is that, I think the neighbor's fence is 7, right?
It's 7
It
feet
is.
tall.
Okay. And then that formwork that's there is the original when it was going to be 7 feet tall?
Yes.
Okay.
And
all right.
that 4-foot retaining wall will also allow us to help maintain a proper drainage swale. And in addition, because myself and one of the gentlemen over in the staff spoke of drainage, and the builder, the home builder and the homeowner have said if necessary, a French drain can be added to the drainage area there to provide proper drainage so that nothing affects the neighboring properties.
Okay. The staff, were you all done with your feedback?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right, anybody have any specific feedback here? Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I've followed this project almost from the first time that the garage was just demolished on this site. I mean, it is challenging by its grade. The grade of this lot has always been challenging. I think they did a good job of trying to find a way to fit the house on that lot. And so, seeing it's only going to be, would you say, 4 feet, 48 inches?
At the maximum height.
At the maximum, and given the complexities of the lot as far as its topography, I mean, I can't see why I would oppose it. I will ask this question, though. From what we saw from the previous approval of the COA to this one, it looks like maybe there's an addition of a door and side lights and some steps. Is that going to change as well on this one?
I'm unaware of any changes, or I'm unaware of any previous submittals of the house or any changes that may or may not have occurred from what that is. I'm not a part of
Your
it.
pool only tonight.
I
Only pool.
am pool and retaining wall only.
Did they
Okay,
get,
all right.
did they get any COA updates? Not that we know.
Also, just
Okay.
quick note, I don't know that it really matters much, but the previous rendering that she showed, nobody can figure out how that made it to y'all because that was a marketing thing that was done by the house designer way before I even got involved with the pool project. So, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But that was it was a marketing thing. He had no idea where the grades were going to finish and all that other stuff as it related to everything. It wasn't even part of what he was doing. And as you can see, he doesn't have the green box that would be obtrusive, obviously, if it was at that height. But the existing finished floor elevation of the patio will require all those steps coming down. And we're thinking also of changing, making a minor modification to that where we do a landing and bring the steps down along the wall side to provide a little safer entry into the space.
Yeah, I would say that all that needs to be in the application,
Yeah.
those changes along with the application for the pool.
Okay.
I don't think this concept rendering could be approved by codes. When you look at the steps, it just,
How steep they are. Yeah.
yeah, and they just look out of scale. So, yes.
Well, the whole image is squished long.
Yeah, we've got to have something clearer than this to review, and I would want to see it in the context of what's around it, because part of it is the visual impact just to the neighbors. So I would not, with what we've been shown, be prepared to really give an opinion on it, because I don't think that could be built the way it is right now.
The 4-foot wall?
Because of the steps, the form wall possibly, what is the material on that?
The material has been selected for the house, and the homeowner is doing, all approved products being used on the house are going to be used at the pool. So if it's stone on the house, that's the stone that will be used on the pool. If it is siding or brick, painted brick, whatever it might be, then that will also translate over to
Gotcha.
the pool area.
Yeah, I think a picture of where the product is used somewhere so you could know what it actually looked like. I think the railing would need to be worked on. It looks too much just like Holocore product sprayed. So I would think that needs to be worked on, and then just understanding it in the context of the neighborhood.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Maybe I missed it in the introduction, but, so, thank you for, I like the little pool detail drawings you just dropped in for me, because I was like, that's how they do that kind of pool, okay. You're asking us to like give our comments on, do we like this pool? Do we think it's appropriate?
No. What I'm asking for is, or what I would hope to obtain is the ability to get a certificate of appropriateness so that staff could review the application and approve the permitting of both the retaining wall as well as the pool.
Okay, so to answer that, we need more documents. We need, like Mary was saying, we need to see how it affects the rest of the house. So it needs more of an architectural package or some type of a drawing package to show us, like you were talking about the stairs and turning them and running, making an appropriate landing. So all of those things, I think you need to, I'm so glad Mr. Detail Pool Man's here, but we need more of the other components that kind of make us able to understand it better and support the retaining wall. And thank you for clarifying that the flat pool drop-in photo is just a marketing tool, because I'm like, wait, what's happening? It was very confusing. Like, what are we here to help you with?
Yeah, it was a very early
Yeah.
drawing on a process that
Yeah.
he was just unaware of
how all the finished floor elevations and existing grades lived in relation to each other.
We will see the little tail of this from the front elevation and so we don't want to,
The part that could be, the only portion that can be seen would, if no landscaping or anything is done to hide it, is that front edge where those two are, and then as it goes back along that portion of the wall. But again, the homeowner has committed to completely hiding that from the street, so.
that's good. When in doubt, we don't always plant it out. So we don't rely on planting to deal with that. But looking at how this all fits to the building and know, like Emily went and got a picture of the site right now. Thank you. Very helpful.
Very helpful.
You're adding a mass to the back of this house too. So we're looking at the massing of this pool patio extravaganza and the hand railing and all those kind of features too. So part of me wants to understand that better with this retaining wall and how that massing works to this, since we're going to see a side piece of it as well. So kind of bring all those pieces together for us.
And, let's go ahead, sir.
Go
Well,
ahead,
I'm just
Brian.
going to say, given all this complexity, I would rather see it come before the board than be a COA approval by staff.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, is it's not necessarily all your department or responsibility, but, if there's changes to the other parts of the house that even touch this pool, we need to see all those. And so the architect or owner needs to submit those updates along with whatever updates you're going to do to the pool deck. If you're going to provide landings and rails on those, then it should show all that, and we should have the material for the rails and all that. The placement, it sounds like if you're 4 feet plus a 3-foot rail, then you're going to be still probably above the fence of the neighbor because you're uphill just a little bit, which that in itself isn't necessarily problematic. It's just the idea that if a 6-foot person's standing on that, they're going to be 10 feet tall. They can look into the backyard of the other people too. So it's like there's some compounding factors that we really have to think about. So the most information that you all can bring, and I don't think it's all yours. Like I said, I think you're going to have to go back to the team and figure out how to get a holistic package together that we can really consider. Is this the right thing? Or, if we're going to turn the stair, does it matter if we drop that retaining wall to 3 feet? And add some more steps just to honor that neighbor's privacy a little bit and honor the intent of the COA that we approved originally, which was what we thought was going to be a 2 steps down flat pool. Now we're still wanting that, but it's 7 feet taller than the neighbor's yard. So bring all that. Jared, did you have something you wanted to comment on, sir?
I was going to ask the commission, can you go back to that last picture? There's a couple things that aren't shown in this picture that will be in the future. There's going to be a package unit on the side of that house, and then there's going to be some pool equipment further down past, and I think that y'all will want to see that when that gets submitted with that next DRC
Sure.
or historic, just to see how that site will look in the future if it goes on with the design proposed.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
if you look to just behind that tree, or beyond, I should say, that tree, there is pool equipment there by the neighbors, for the neighbor's house. The pool equipment proposed area is directly across from theirs, and it's tucked behind where the house comes back. So, again, so as to hide it as much
Right.
as possible.
And I think the house originally had a little fin wall on that side that we gave the boot.
Yeah, that shows it there.
Yeah.
But-
The
but
Tudor
they
version
have
of
a
this house
notch.
had some wing walls.
Yeah, they have that notch there, and so
Yeah.
the proposed pool equipment would go
Yeah.
inside that little notch.
Okay.
But what I think Tyler got at was, what my concern is seeing it in the context of the neighbor's yard, because wouldn't it be fun to one day walk out and everybody's up here on the pool looking down in your yard? And I would not want us to approve something that did that to someone.
I think there's some, we'd have to see it, but that's the kind of thing, maybe it's a sight through the section, through the pool, just to show some of those view angles, but you're on a sloped lot, so you're going to have some retaining wall of some sort, but my thought would be to try and minimize it to honor those kind of neighbors behind you, next to you, and try to minimize that transition. We work really hard on heights of houses and massing, and then, to put the ability to stand really close to the property line and look over a fence is like, to me, is almost like fumbling it at the 1 yard line. It's like, man, we worked so hard, and then we just kind of fumbled it off, so.
The homeowners also are committed to wanting privacy as well from the neighboring property. So again, there are plans to plant in a way that would provide some, as much as possible.
Yeah, and plants.
Pencil trees or things that might.
Yeah,
might provide some area.
we try not to consider landscape really heavily because stuff dies or doesn't get maintained or whatever. But if there's a landscaping plan and it's part of the scheme, I would bring it and say, we're planning on 10 arborvitae down this, and they're evergreens, and talk us through it, because it is a factor, but we don't weigh it super heavily necessarily. But maybe in this instance where we're really talking about fine tuning walls and.
Also, it's worth noting that open covered patio area, that is up at that 7-foot height. So when they're in that area, they're already, even if there is no pool, they're looking into the neighbor's yard from up there. Not
Get
that they
that.
necessarily
Yeah, and
want to,
there's second story windows we deal with all the time. But
Sure.
this allows you to get even closer to the property line. So we're all trying to understand it and think about what's best for these homeowners and the neighborhood. So, like I said, bring a full package. I agree that we probably need to see the pool and pool deck again, and some of these changes we're seeing with windows and doors, and, if there needs to be landings and things that would be worked out with codes, then add them, show it correctly, and let's review the whole thing again and get that approved. But we just need to see more. But I don't think the pool, if the rest of the house was done and we were just talking about the retaining wall with a pool, we might be close to having enough with a little bit of notes on materials. But with all the stair things and pool equipment and window changes and transformers in the yard, just bring a whole, needs a whole submission.
And in the context
Yeah.
of the neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else, anybody?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
has it been mentioned that the guardrail on top of the retaining wall does not have to be that material? That you have to have a guardrail, but it does not have to be that specific material. So if the commission wants it to look a certain way or something like that,
Yeah.
y'all can vote on that and kind of advise on that as well.
Yeah. I think Mary mentioned, we don't want to get in the habit of using subpar materials, right? We don't even know what it is. It's just a rendering. But make sure when
Yeah.
you submit it, if it's
Once again,
iron
I'm
rail or
assuming
aluminum.
There was railing on the left and right side of that fireplace
Mhm.
On the house before the pool ever got involved. My assumption is that railing is the same railing that'll be used
Okay.
everywhere.
Well, bring a
And-
picture of it, because that's, if you already have it, then
Well,
it's easy to get a picture.
I'll talk to the home builder.
Yeah.
He's the one who would, that
Yeah.
would be in his package. of
Yeah, and I know you're
stuff for the house.
in here taking a lecture on stuff that you're like, that ain't got anything to do with that. But you,
I don't even.
You're
know
the
if those
messenger for
windows are-
tonight.
I don't even know if those windows are changes or anything.
yeah, just, yeah, they can go back and watch it, and I appreciate that you've had to sit here and listen. I've been in your spot before, and I get it, so
Well,
thank you.
An hour ago, you were in this spot.
Yeah, I was in that spot an hour ago. All right, thank you. I appreciate your help.
Okay, so just so that I know, you want a full package of everything to the house, all
Yep.
the changes?
Your
As it is.
part's this much of that much.
And staff.
Yeah.
Our staff is so happy to help the whole team with
Right.
what pieces need brought forward.
But then you're saying that this wouldn't be a design review thing, that you're wanting this to be a,
It needs to come to a voting meeting because it's part of its changes to an existing COA. We're just saying it can't be staff approved necessarily.
Right.
And I think there's enough complicating factors here that it needs to come to a voting meeting
the
and
the
not be
goal,
staff.
we were really, the homeowner really wanted to, try and keep the staff review, so we tried to meet all
Well,
the
sure.
guidelines for staff review
Well,
by bringing the total height
Yeah.
under the guidelines there within
It just
zoning
depends on your
approval.
package. You still need more input.
documentation, yeah. But it's, yeah, if it were just the pool, that might be possible, but it's not. And that's not your fault.
Well, this would be a tough one for staff approval. It's kind of out of the box of things that have been approved. I don't think we regularly approve 4-foot retaining walls with an iron fence on top of them in a really tight neighborhood. So, to me, the site conditions, right?
Yep. So yes, I think it needs to come back and, again, I'm sure the homeowners won't be thrilled with that, but they've also, if they've made updates without coming back, that was a condition of their approval, and that's, if that costs them more time now, well, they could have done that earlier
Yeah,
too.
I think their goal is just to find out if there's a challenge to being approved, what can we do to sidestep that challenge? And even if we have to make just some design changes or something in order to reduce the complexity or make it a situation that isn't something that requires a whole board review kind of a thing.
Yeah.
If we can keep it a staff review, they're okay with making additional changes if those can be proposed or offered as. if this,
I
then that
think,
kind of
I think it's still just too complicated for that. So I think it
Okay.
needs to just come back and we need to, if there's another DRC that they want to bring that full kind of review package so that we can really talk about, because we don't have a lot to give you feedback on because, like I said, we don't have like a section through the site where I'm like, okay, based on their fence, what could you really see? Like, we just don't have a lot of data here. The renderings are beautiful and helpful, but it doesn't give us a whole lot of context or specific details on the materials and views and how real stairs are going to work. I mean, at a minimum, those stairs have to have some type of rail on them,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, well, there's so many pieces kind of left out that it needs to be looked at again, even maybe before you submit. You can submit it for COA whenever you want, but I'd recommend coming and getting some real feedback and getting some consensus from the board before you go to a voting meeting. That would be my recommendation. But
Okay.
And
Yep.
staff will send you a DRC recap of everything that we have heard, just kind of summing up everything. And
Okay.
just some suggested next steps.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, we have item number 7, discussion of new construction and accessory structure at 344 Franklin Road. Elliot Franklin is the applicant. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Elliot Franklin. So my wife and I purchased this house a little over a year ago, March of last year. And it does not have a garage. And so, especially with the recent storms and such, we wanted to add a garage and accessory structure as you're looking at the house on the left side. And understand that it needs to be, since it's a detached, it needs to be 50% or no more than 50% of the base footprint. And so that's what we've requested, with the same, pitch of the roof and matching the same siding and all the materials, the color, the paint, everything that we understood as being a requirement. So.
Okay, let's hear from staff here.
Thank you. And staff has met with the applicant and provided some preliminary feedback about the proposed structure, primarily about the proposed size, placement of the structure, and materials. So the size of the structure appears to meet the guidelines, now being 50% of the principal building footprint at 1,140 square feet. The structure is positioned at the end of the driveway behind the principal building, but does not meet the zoning ordinance requirements of being 5 feet behind the principal building and would require a variance as shown. It is unknown and clear from the plans if the location shown on these plans meets the required setbacks and is the final proposed location of the structure as it's shown shaded on the screen. The applicant has noted that the change in grade and slope on the lot does not allow for the structure to be pushed back further. However, staff does not know how this may also impact the height and appearance of the structure and whether it is built into the grade or if the structure will appear taller than the principal building and how the change in grade on the lot will impact the proposed accessory structure. As shown, the structure does not appear subordinate in depth to the principal building on the lot. Additionally, our guidelines recommend that the upper story of an accessory structure be no more than 60% of the footprint to ensure a 1.5-story form. Based on the numbers provided, the second story appears to only be 2 square feet less than the footprint and is not appropriate in light of this guideline. The dormers, as shown, appear to be very large and are unusually located on the roof and feature window configuration and spacing that is not traditional. So clear feedback about the location of the proposed accessory structure is needed from the applicant, and also to ensure that where it's shown shaded on the plans is the proposed location to seek a variance for, if they wish to pursue a variance, and if you all are favorable of the location, and additional feedback about the design of the structure with the proposed use of horizontal siding or vertical board and batten siding to match the house, use of shutters, and the size and placement of dormers is needed. Thank you.
Okay, give me that list one more time.
So we've got the location for the applicant to understand if they
Okay.
will be able to go seek a variance, and then also about the subordinate nature of the building in relation to the height and change in grade to the principal building, the use of horizontal siding or vertical board and batten to match the house, because it's currently the white board and batten, and the proposed use of a shutter, and the size and placement of dormers as they are large, and the spacing between the windows is a bit unusual.
You said shutters?
There's one shutter shown on the front of the building, and there's no shutters on the principal building.
Okay, understood. Okay, so walk us through the all the variables that put this where you've shown it on the site plan in terms of location, because there's a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when you see the site plan here, the 5 feet that's required behind the setback or the building would put it essentially on the fence, right there. And we've, again, that's with the minimum sizing there. So because of the grading of the back, we've asked if we can start it right at the back of the house instead of moving it 5 feet up behind.
So is is the back of the house or the back of the deck? Do we know the answer?
If it's an uncovered deck, it's not counted as house, so it'd
Okay,
just be
and is it uncovered, that
It is
deck?
uncovered.
Okay, so in this site plan I'm looking at, there's a dashed line that's sort of the back of the house there, and it looks like it is a few feet back from it. Is that where you're hoping to put it, is right here, what you're
No,
showing?
this is the 5 feet back. We actually would like, so when our designer did draw it, he put it 5 feet back, but then when we actually looked at the sizing of where it would be, it was right up against the fence. So we would like to request it to be actually at the dash line.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think
that was.
and we can review things like that, we could theoretically approve that at a voting meeting, but then you gotta go get a variance, right?
Correct.
And then if they say no, you just gotta come back and see us again. And that's, all contingent on whether it got approved that way. We typically don't approve things that we know you have to go get a variance for, because we want to approve something that's actually going to happen.
Right.
Not to say you won't get the variance, but, if there's no variance needed, then we would be the be-all, end-all.
Right.
Okay. So why, you just don't want it back to the fence for, what's the
Well, there was a
rationale?
concern of then I can't remember what it is, but what is the setback requirement from the fence? I think it was it
The
same?
property line, is
Yeah.
it? 5 probably.
I think it was the same thing, so we were
Okay.
running into it on both sides. That was why.
Well, part of that's the layout of your building too, doesn't, it could be laid out differently to where it's not as long. It could be a little wider or just a different shape. So, you know, that, yeah, in my mind, it's like, well, maybe that's not a hardship. It's just a different design necessarily that, you know, and you certainly have your motivations, right, for what you want and why you want it, but we don't pass judgment on what you're doing inside. We just go, change, you know, can you change the shape?
Yeah, it could be wider. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's location. They asked us, you asked us to comment on the subordinate nature. Is it subordinate? And then you kind of had the little caveat of with the grade and different things happening. So it's going downhill. Is it dipping off the back too, or is it going up?
It's going up.
Going up. Okay.
Let's go up.
So it's kind of doing this
Towards the
in that
railroad.
picture. Okay. Any feedback for I think you're going to hear some things when we talk about subordinate nature about, you know, it's going to talk about those dormers too, because the dormers speak to the massing, the pitched roof. Looks like the gable's facing forward, which sometimes can make it feel more massive, but any feedback?
My concern is the upper floor, because in the guidelines, it says limit the upper floor to 60% of the lower floor square footage. And this is very close to the lower floor square footage.
So what is the height? What's the height of the proposed garage and the height of your house?
I think that was in the submission. I don't have that.
That also helps in determining
Yeah.
the subordinate nature of it.
Yeah, that and
The height of, what was your question? I want to make sure I
The height of your proposed garage and the height of your house.
got it. Yeah, we have that in the survey, but I don't have it in front of me, so.
And part of it too is, you know, you have neighbors, but they're pretty far away.
Yeah, it's an acre lot.
And it's a new house, right? Or newer.
Well, it's 1988, but he renovated it right before we bought it.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, is it considered non-contributing in the historic district?
It is non-historic too.
Okay, non-historic, non-contributing to the district. So, you know, there's some flexibility there. If you were right up, like we just talked about, a neighborhood where it's like 8 feet between houses. This is a different thing, so you've got a little flexibility, but we still want to try and fall within the guidelines in terms of height, so it's supposed to be lower. And because you're going uphill a little bit, is the back wall buried in the ground? I guess you'd have to do that to get your garage doors on grade.
Right.
So really representing that well when you come for a COA, I think is really important so that we know, okay, from the garage doors to the peak is this, and then what's the delta from your, you know, if there's a picture of your current house and the garage next to each other at some relative grade,
Yeah.
that helps us make a good decision. Anything else on subordinate nature? Kathy, go ahead.
Subordinate nature, right now what you have shown for us is like basically the footprint, the little grayed out box for it too. And it appears to be not very subordinate with just that information. So you mentioned earlier maybe reconfiguring it, changing the shape, maybe rotating on the side a little bit differently. Do we know like what percent, do we have to follow a percentage?
Yeah, I think it said 49%.
49, okay. Maybe it's
Maybe I'm
just
looking
the
at
fact
another
that it's
project.
freestanding and that maybe a lot of your problems are solved by turning it so that the long end doesn't crash up into that, and then you've got separation from the house as well, but more information on the height and all that too. But
Okay.
Yeah.
And it would have, if you were looking at our guidelines, the dormers would have some issues and the placement of the windows, the way the windows are placed on the dormers.
I think guidelines would talk about taking your dormer off the ridge so that it drops down below the main ridge of the house some. I think that's in our guidelines.
So for principal buildings, it does have that. For accessory structures, it can meet at the ridge.
It can meet at the ridge.
The dormers
okay.
can.
Yeah.
What size is your lot?
It's a 1 acre lot.
And the forgiveness is, this is very far back from
is.
the road. So
Yeah, it was kind of my thought with the,
that's the forgiveness.
I know you have neighbors, but they're pretty far off. This is way off. And I was trying to point to the fact that, we always try to consider context and protecting kind of neighborhood feel. And I'm like, it's pretty kind of agrarian there in that little stretch. So, because of that, there's some flexibility, but I still think
Right.
it ought to, fit in what we would consider kind of a subordinate nature. All the guidelines are written for that reason. Brian, did you have something?
Well, I'm just going to say, the bank of windows on the very back is atypical of what we would see in historic, but it backs up to a railroad track.
It does, that's correct. That is correct.
Feel free. Yeah, like I would say a pair of garage doors instead of one big one. That would be a good thing. The shutters, if you don't need shutters, don't have them.
We're just gonna remove them, yeah.
Well, I'm a shutter snob. I feel like shutters should actually cover the window that they're on. And
think we're
on
just
a pair of windows to have a shutter on each side, it's like, well, you cover half of your window. So they're just kind of a funny detail. I feel like the ground floor, you've got more typical window openings and doors. You got a lot of these canopies down the side. If those could be thought of as, maybe there's only one of them. It's just a bunch of things that make it sort of complicated there. And then your dormers, just having some more typical windows. I think that the dormers kind of got a, big forehead syndrome because there's a lot of siding above the window till you hit either fill that up or shorten the bearing height, one or the other. Because I don't think those windows are small. I think the dormer wall is just really tall. So you might cull that back. I don't think your dormers, and even in historic buildings, a lot of dormers don't have the same bearing height as a typical wall would. So if that's 7-foot bearing and your window head's at 6 or something, that's more typical. As opposed to, I don't know what this is. It looks like 8 or 9, and then your window's at like 6-foot head height. So trying to work on those details, look at some nice garages around town and go, okay, I want to mimic that, and pay attention to some of those forehead things and how much wall you have on each side of a window. Because typically you wouldn't have much. The whole point of a dormer was daylight. There's not a lot of historic dormers that just have blank wall. It was mostly window. So you might go back and look at some of those things. And then the other thing I would say is, looking at this, you've got one piece of dormer that's facing your backyard, right? And it's got this little bitty window and a whole bunch of wall. And then the other side that doesn't look on your property has all the windows. So you might think about, do I have the orientation right, that I might flip-flop these things to give neighbors more privacy and then you get more view of your yard. It's those kind of things that might help refine.
I have another comment. too.
Yes.
If you scroll down to the floor plan with the little grid underneath it,
Mm-hmm.
that's more of a square shape. On your site plan, it's more rectangular shape. So which one is it?
Well, no, you're right. We revised it after we met with staff. We revised it to shrink it, but we didn't
Okay.
want to do the outside changes until we came here and understood exactly these things. So that's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay.
I would also say bring details of the garage door, and I would delete the canopy over the garage doors. Even though it sits back, this is like our most treasured roadway into downtown Franklin.
Okay. Comments on the horizontal or the board and batten siding? I mean, the house is sort of a form of board and batten. No, it's board and batten. It's got some horizontals in there, but I think that's just the joints.
I would do just horizontal siding.
Yeah.
To not try to match the 1980s house, just to differentiate. I think it would look a bit more interesting.
Anybody else?
I kind of thought that the board and batten that's on it today is a new skin. That, you know, it wasn't originally like that in 88. That was
Yeah, that's what I thought.
recently.
It might have had vertical siding of some sort, but in the 80s, but not, I think that's just a modern renovation, probably.
So what would your preference be? Horizontal siding or board and batten?
Yeah, we met with staff and it said, honestly, we don't have a preference. We're fine to do either one. So, you know.
I think what the only thing in my mind is the board and batten definitely, when you see it in like the house, you go, well, that's not a historic house. And it's not, and that's okay. We have
Yeah.
a mixture. And so to use the board and batten, if this were a historic house and we were talking about board and batten, I'd go, no, it needs to fit with the context of the historic house. But because this is not that, I think there's, in my mind, I don't want to create kind of a historic looking garage just because the guidelines say, yeah, it's like,
I think would make this feel appropriate to me would be the siding. Keep it simple. Simplicity
what I
is here.
think.
Because if we're looking at the drawing that shows the perspective, the isometric of the house with the big dormer on it, what do you do up there? Do I have board and batten on the bottom? Do you do side on top? It gets too messy, so I just try and keep it simple.
Yeah,
And
I
then
like
that will afford you less modulation of where you're gonna put those windows if you don't do board and batten, and just simple.
That's a
Yeah.
good way to put it.
yeah, the siding will be way more forgiving.
And honestly, I don't mind the little awnings over the garage doors or the other doors, but it just needs to get cleaned up. I think the shutters,
Yeah,
um,
that's already been done. Those,
That's
They're gone.
a technical term.
but the awnings, they serve a purpose too, so,
they do.
I just need to see them fixed up a little bit differently.
And I kind of had the same thought on the garage doors, because I was thinking, whether it should be like a carriage house style, but probably not. I mean, it's a 1980s house. I mean,
Yeah,
it should be
so you
something
could-
different.
You could do window lights.
And you
Yeah.
could do something
Here.
more
It would make
modern,
more
you know,
sense, yeah.
than you would to make it look historic.
And this is even a more, I mean, the skin on the house now is even more contemporary looking than the 1980 version,
Yeah.
whatever that was. It's like,
Yeah.
if it were I've seen, I mean, if this just had flat panel garage doors, it'd be like, well, that would go
Yeah.
with the house.
Yeah.
Almost like the house we saw earlier today, that outbuilding. It's like, that one doesn't want carriage doors. Wants something really slender and simple. I'm not saying it ought to be like a, glass garage door, but.
No, not gonna do that.
Okay. Placement of dormers, we talked about. This is not one of our official guidelines, but generally when I look at a roof, and if a dormer's over half the width of the roof above, it looks too big. And if it's less than half, you can usually pull it off. And then, like I said, that window thing, dormers were made for windows. Very, very few instances where they don't have them historically, where the whole thing's not windows. But take a look at that and maybe try the 50% thing. Take the whole roof length and go, all right, I'm going to use half of it for dormer. That's it. In your square footage, some of it's knee-walled, so if it's really going to be just attic storage space, you're going to run duct through there, that doesn't count as your upstairs. That's just attic that's unoccupiable. So whoever's drawing this for you, let them take the measurements and, the stairs a whole. You don't count stairs up and down. So it can't be, you can't have a stair and some attic space and still be the same square footage below. It's not how it's measured. It's not possible. So unless you had some cantilevered portions of the second floor, which you don't.
So we do have dormers on both sides, right?
That's what it's,
That's what it looks like, because we're
That's
looking
what he's
at
showing
both
now.
sides of the thing. So it's got like wings on it.
Mhm.
So to me, your own little trick of percentage of the width of the roof, I think the door needs to shrink if it could.
Yeah.
Especially since you have a pair of them.
I think it could help, even though this isn't a guideline, like Elizabeth said, that they don't touch the ridge. But if the whole roof plane of the dormers came down a foot or so, the bearing height above the windows and off the ridge, it's going to start to look like they're just dormers on a roof instead of like creating a huge second story. I think you won't miss the square footage upstairs because you'll still have plenty of headroom and things, but from the outside, it starts to look like a garage with a simple form and some dormers instead of big wings, like a huge expansion. And we've seen that. You go to neighborhoods where it's like they've peeled the whole back of a house up, the whole back is a dormer. That's not ideal in terms of preservation. So we wouldn't want to
no.
kind of mimic that here necessarily. Kathy, do you have some?
As was mentioned too, once you know the height of your house, the ridge, the most highest point, then determining how this maintains the ridge height as to being subordinate, and then all that plays in with how
Bring
you're
those
gonna
down.
finish it out.
Brian?
Just one thing, do you have an image, since Kathy brought it up, you have dormers on both sides, an image that actually shows that? So if you were looking straight on, you'd see the dormer, the shed dormers?
I don't have that.
If you could bring something like that, that would be helpful.
Bob, Angela, did you guys have any thoughts?
No.
Nothing? Okay. Shutters, placement dormers, board and bed, and subordinate location. Okay. We covered all of Elizabeth's hit list anyways. Anything specific you wanted us to cover?
No?
Good, okay.
I will say one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to see an elevation from the front, showing the house with the garage.
Right.
And whichever way you are going to turn it,
Right.
I want to see what that looks like relative to the main house.
Full elevation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we take a break? Some of us
Mhm.
did, but others of us didn't.
Okay, we good? Thank you very much. All right, we're going to take a little break here. We always take breaks when Mike Hathaway shows up.
Yes.
He just turned to his buddies and goes, I knew it. So we've been at it for, it's 6. It's almost 2 hours. So let's take a quick break. You have food for us? Okay. Let's come back at 12 minutes now. That's not going to do it. Yeah, let's do 6:05. We'll be back, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. Item number 8 here, discussion of partial demolition on a principal structure and new construction and addition at 132 3rd Avenue South. Mr. Mike Hathaway is here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mike Hathaway with 906 Studio Architects. Thanks for the opportunity to present. I know some of the folks here are different than we had before, so I'm going to kind of start the story a little bit from the beginning. Cornerstone Presbyterian Church is on the corner of Church and 3rd Avenue. They realized that the old Biscuit Love, Lily Bells, all the other things they've been, was going to be for sale. So they said, okay, this gives us an opportunity to build a new sanctuary so that we don't have to move out of town. They're not a mega church. They're not looking to be 2,000 people, et cetera. They just needed a place for about 350 people for their church. And I think they're about a 180-ish, 180, 190 where they are now. So that's a pretty big growth that they need. So with that in mind, they asked us to help them look at this site and how maybe if there's a way to put this sanctuary on this site. So when we originally looked at it, and this is a perfect plan to be on, so that the pink building, that's the original house. It's about 3,154 square feet. The first addition is that yellow piece. I don't know exactly the date, but it's 1,263 square feet. So it was about 40% of the original house. When they added the pavilion, which I know it's been discussed, it's not permanent. It's about as close to permanent as it can be because it's a substantial structure, secure to the ground. It can be removed, of course, but we've all seen it there for however many years, so it feels like it's been a part of this house. So when you add that square footage in, about 2,200 square feet, total square foot of the two additions, the yellow and the pavilion, relative to the original house is about 112%. So a substantial amount. So if you go to the next page, actually to the next page after that. So we've got images in here of the original house, beautiful, I think it's Second Empire, but it's of that era and has some Victorian feel to it. Interesting that it's all covered with aluminum siding, and the coverage of that siding is about 8 or 9 inches. So big pieces of siding. We're proposing in our addition to do smaller, more residential scale, a smaller scale feel. Because I don't think that was the original. Obviously, aluminum siding had its heyday and came in probably in the 20s and 30s, so we don't think that was original to the house. If you go to the next page, it's more images of that outdoor canopy, some of the other buildings. There's a fair amount of disrepair that needs to be fixed, and I think the beauty of this is the church wants to come in, remove a big part of that addition that was done in the back, and create something new that's more respectful to the original house. So if you go to the next page, that chart shows 79%. We looked at our numbers, and I apologize that we had others do the numbers, but I think we're somewhere in between 79% and 85% as a proposed addition. When we submitted the last month, you guys, well, we came in at about 108% of the original house. So a big suggestion was, how do you make that smaller? So I think it was Tyler that made this suggestion, and we've looked at that and believe that we can pull that off. We are expanding, so when you walk in, the first level that you see is the balcony of the sanctuary. And then below that, we've dug out a hole for the main sanctuary to be. So it's more underground. And again, to Tyler's point, we've pushed the envelope of the base of the church, so that it's expanded outside of that main footprint above. So what you see is not the same footprint as what's on the very ground level underground. And that's allowed us to get the 350 spaces that we're trying to, or the seats that we're trying to accomplish. So this is an elevation of the side. If you're looking at it from the courthouse, the existing courthouse, if you can peek over the wall, or if the wall wasn't there, this is what you would see. We originally came into you guys with what I would call more Gothic kind of style. And from the responses you guys gave us, that we simplified that, try to get it much more of a classical style, but using some of the pieces of this original house. So we've got a scallop detail in the gabled ends. We've kept the roofs fairly low for these sort of the saddle sides, and use metal for that. And then the main form, and you would see that in the interior, the main form would be more pronounced. So if you go to the next one, that's a view from the office building that's next door, the big parking lot that's behind it. That's what you would see from that parking lot. The idea, again, if you go back one, I'm sorry. So the idea is this addition to the left, or to the right, would be a form that ties into the original house with a connector. So it's more of a form, main form, and the connector in between those. And if we go to the next image, go one more, I'm sorry. So this is the side where you'll enter into the sanctuary. The door is there on the left side. That enters into the main sanctuary at the balcony level. So you'll see the drama of high windows, and then the lower area for the church. We've lowered the slope of that roof to match more of the original house, and so it's not that Gothic style anymore, and keeping the details very simple. Horizontal siding that's more like a 5-inch exposure versus the 8-inch. And then in the middle there, we're creating a courtyard, and what was not there before, it was just a solid wall. What we've proposed is to make it look like it was a connector porch, where we filled in between columns with windows and panels, and this will be the alternate access to get into the building, to get into a elevator that goes down, and a stair that goes down to get you down, if you're in a wheelchair, to get you down to the main level. We've made sure that the depth of that is more than 6 feet under, because we don't want somebody to feel like they're buried. No, I'm kidding, that was a bad joke. All right, the next pieces are renderings that'll give you a sense about what you're seeing on this. So this rendering doesn't really show that perspective, but the face of the house, the face of the church aligns with the main house, and then it sets back from there, and you can see that from here. But you can see the scale, it's much lower than the main house. We want to celebrate the original house, it's so beautiful. And then this is that view from the parking lot I was telling you about, and you would look through these windows and see down into the stage or the sanctuary. Then this is the piece of the sanctuary that extends over to the right side. There's a piece of the original building there now. If you look back at the original photographs, there's a piece of that. So we're not extending this building out beyond what was there already. This is just where the original footprint was. And then this gives you an overall view, bird's eye, of how this new structure relates to the original. Obviously, this looks like there's no buildings around it, but the courthouse is beyond. And then that other building, the office building, 2-story porch is to the right side. And then this is a view from the courtyard that is in between the original church and the new proposed sanctuary. People will come in here in different ways. We think they'll come through the Biscuit Love building and get into the sanctuary. We'll think they'll come through this courtyard and come in, or they'll come in through the original Cornerstone Presbyterian Church, and then cut across to get into the sanctuary. So there's multiple ways to get into it. But again, the intent is for us to make this very simple and diminutive to the original house. There's so much detail to that original house, we don't want to compete with that at all. So would love your feedback. The church is currently proposing to buy the property. They haven't bought it yet, so part of the feedback you guys give us will help us understand if they can take that risk and buy this property, knowing they'll have some success in doing what they want to do.
Okay, let's hear from staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, the original portion of the building was constructed in 1897, and a larger addition was constructed that is seen on the renderings here in yellow, but the age of these additions were not provided. If the additions are below the historic threshold, it may be appropriate to demolish them, but more information is needed. The proposed addition that can be seen on this slide exceeds the recommended addition square footage for historic residential buildings. The addition does not meet the addition does meet the recommended 35% of lot coverage by covering 32% of the lot. The proposed addition has been simplified compared to the previous DRC submittal, but the addition appears to overpower the historic footprint of the building. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody want to start us here? Any comments? Okay, Kathy?
Wow. It's a great job, I think. I'm really curious about this digging the hole kind of a thing. That's just amazing. When I'm looking just at that drawing right there too, it almost, this scale it's still too big, but what that makes you tend to believe is that it's got the height to it. So good job on reducing that height. And thinking definitely out of box in the hole on giving height in the space. Have you ever done that before? I mean, that's pretty cool.
We have not done that with a church, for sure, but.
We've buried parking lots, you know, but.
And the beauty of this for us is it's the upper level becomes almost like clear story windows. So we're going to get a lot of natural light in there. And then we're anticipating putting in some faux stained glass down on the lower level. So put a light behind it, it'll read like it's a real window, and even the county courthouse has done that, which was interesting, but I think we'll make sure that it doesn't feel like you're in a hole. But nobody
Is
will.
there any way you could reduce the square footage to minimize the impact on the site?
We can continue to try to do that. There are, we took the little chunks out of the right side of the building. That now reads under, in the basement level as these floating pieces that will support, and it'll become the proscenium of the stage. So we'll just try to find some creative ways to make that feel right, but.
And I know you won't experience the building from an aerial view like this too, but
Right.
because you're such a uniform cross form, one wing is wider than the other side. So to me, maybe making it all four unification components would also reduce the scale of it, size of it.
Happy to do that. I think the reason why we didn't was trying to, again, reduce square footage. If we make that wider to match the backside.
I'm thinking, yeah, making it tighter and smaller
Yeah.
and equal.
Sure.
It's just handsome. Well done. Like the transition, the breezeway courtyard thing. You would be changing that fenestration on the outside with the windows and the double doors and.
That's right.
Changing roof material as well.
Yeah. But it's a very generic face right now, so I think
It's a nice pause between the main home and the main and then the new. Renderings are beautiful too.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Angela?
I concur. Wow. This has come a long way. And it's much more sensitive to both buildings, really, truly. I like that. I like very much the way that you've tucked it back and in, and it's definitely going in a better direction. Yeah, so I like the style of it.
Good.
Yeah.
I like the front right, which you have recessed in the back, because you're following the same size of the windows in the front.
Yeah.
So it's given a
Sensitive.
continuity,
Mhm.
sensitivity
Yeah,
to it.
good.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, I want to say, I always knew this as the Corn House, because Mr.
Right.
Corn had it. And Mr. Corn attended the Baptist church, that's what it was next door. And used to say, Mr. Corn, how things down there at the Baptist church? He said, well, I'm doing most of the praying and all the paying.
That's awesome.
That's a great house,
Yeah.
that Queen Anne style is probably with the tower. I don't know anything else quite like it in Franklin, so that's a very special property.
Yeah, no doubt.
I did want to, so any plans, if you were to do this, to remove that aluminum siding and restore the house's original siding and, and go try to bring the house back too?
I'll transfer that to Randy Allen, who is elder in the church, and he can probably,
Anyway,
Yeah,
you don't
sure.
have, I'm just saying, that would
Yeah.
be great to see
We've had that
that.
Yeah.
discussion, and we would like to see that as well. We don't know what that cost would be, of course, but we're not going to say we won't do it.
It needs to go.
Yeah.
And so, my biggest concern is the size of the addition. It definitely, to me, it overwhelms the structure, and it's definitely not subordinate to the structure. I'm also concerned about the way it does, you have to the right, it actually, from the street level, you see that addition that juts out from the right. Now, did
Right.
you say that there's already a structure that goes out that far?
yeah, that second addition, you can see it here on the image. So that had already extended out. So we were not 100% following the footprint of that, but same concept,
And so the way
as far back.
the other one looks, so that is so what we're seeing in between is that pavilion. And then in the back piece is where the addition is. So, or am I seeing that opposite?
If you go to this slide right there with those pictures, the bottom left is what you're seeing right now, the dumpster and
Addition.
the wing there on the
Yeah.
right.
And there's a wood fence, I think, across
Yeah,
there.
there's like a wood, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd seen this image earlier. This image looks a lot less intrusive to the right than what I see from the concept image.
Yeah.
So where is that difference coming from?
Well, I think if you look at, I mean, I know you guys don't consider trees, but there's a huge tree right there that softens that view that we don't have in our rendering. Happy to put that in our rendering if that would help you guys visualize that better, but, and then it's way back. Yeah, the original piece, yeah, thank you. So that piece is way back, and when the doors are closed on that dumpster, that fence, all you see is the wood fence. So if that's still an option that we could use there, I don't think we would probably try to replicate that to a certain degree and make it nicer, but replicate that as the screen view.
So what is that? Can you tell me how, so if you took from the main plane of the right side of the house, and then you go out as far as the addition goes, how many feet is that?
In total, I'm gonna just guesstimate, it's about 15 feet.
Okay?
And also, if you noticed, it's broken up into pieces because we've got the wider part and then the thinner part. So it's not, 15 feet is both of those together.
And I know I wasn't here, I think, on the first DRC you must have came to, but I noticed there's a lot of, you said classical elements to the addition, but being that it's a Queen Anne house, it seems to me that something simpler would complement the house more than a classical style for the gables and for that part of the addition.
And that's really, I mean, other than the fact that we've returned the gables, we've tried to make it really simple. You know, the gables are detailed with, you know, basic rake trim and mold, rake mold, and then the gutter lines, and then a crown, and maybe we don't do a crown, and plus the fascia board. So we're trying to keep it super simple. And maybe I need to use a different terminology, but the idea is not a high style. We don't want to totally diminish it, obviously, because it's their main sanctuary, but we don't want to compete with the original cornhouse for sure.
And do you think you could reduce the square footage to at least to a maximum of 50% of the cornhouse?
In all honesty, without compromising the balcony area and what it takes for that to work, I don't think we can get all the way down to 50%.
Okay.
So I'm being honest.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Matt, can you go back to that site plan again? So on this site plan, it feels like the current addition is closer to the street. Is that true?
Closer to the street.
Well, it
Closer to
forms a
Third
T.
Avenue?
Yeah, because this little outline here. That's the existing, right?
Yep,
So the new addition is
farther back.
10 feet further back before it
That's
even
right.
starts.
That's right.
Okay. So what we see today, in addition, that we don't really know the age of, is 10, 12 feet closer to the road than what you're proposing.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, I keep, you know, I'm trying to work with you within like the guidelines, you know, I'm
Sure.
like, well, it's too big. According to the guidelines, I mean, I think you're at 40% of the footprint. Nobody's ever counted that pavilion, but it's caught somewhere between if somebody built that on a house and asked us to do it, we probably wouldn't let them do it because of materials, but if they just did like a covered porch, we'd count it in the footprint.
Right, exactly. That's always
And
considered.
thing's fairly permanent. So I'm like, all right, well, that would make you 112% today. So I'm like, well, okay, if we could get over that hurdle and we conceded that idea, what do we think about the building? And when I look at the renderings, you don't see a ton of one side because it's tucked behind the house. You'll see some of it. And then on the right side, to me, it looks like, oh, maybe there's an outbuilding or something back there. And you never see them both together, which is a good thing.
Right.
So I think those are good. This particular bird's eye view is probably your worst view you have, just because it's like, man, that looks really complicated. It's like, well, I think the alternative is you have tall roof over all that volume, and then I don't think anybody likes it. It's just too much.
Right.
So I know why you did it. The roof plan looks scary, but then when you see it, you go, okay, it helps massing for sure.
Yeah.
So I get that. I think when you said the word traditional earlier, it was right after you were talking about it had some kind of Gothic arched windows and things. You said
Originally.
we've come a bit more towards kind of traditional. So
Right.
I don't think it's well, this is Greek revival or something. It's
Right.
just a more basic, simple version.
Right.
So I like that. I think some of the scale of the windows you might look at, especially the ones you can see from the front. So if you just look at like the front elevation, I think the cornhouse windows are similar, but they're like 80% of what you're proposing on the new. And those are probably easy things to fix. It's like, well, we can scale back a little bit. I think it speaks to the scale of the house, and all of a sudden you see that back there, and things like the fenestration can start to take kind of that. It puts the house in a subordinate nature, even though it's like, well, it's just windows. Like, well, all of a sudden it just looks more grand in the back. So you might tweak those a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But yeah, I get the roof. I get why you need the overage. I don't know what I think about that yet, but it's tough. And then this particular stretch of road, if you were backed up to the courthouse and at the church on your other side, I'd say, well, this is, for all intents and purposes, kind of commercial. And it is a commercial row, but we have another one of our very fine homes, which is being used as an office building next door. But it was built as a home. So I don't think we can make that argument that, well, this is kind of commercial and maybe we can push the envelope here. I'm like, it sort of is, but, you know, sort of not too. So I'm not sure what I think about the overage. Other than that, I'm like, I could see this, but I got to reconcile the idea that it's a lot of building behind this house. So, Mary?
Well, I think the changes are successful. And, I mean, any smaller that you can possibly get it, of course.
Sure.
The things that I feel like give it forgiveness, it's not a corner lot. It is in the most urban core of downtown.
Right.
And I think about, and help me say what it is, Mike, where the short printing business was and the house was built with all that addition on the back. And I don't think anyone
Knows it's there.
knows it's there. What do we call that now? What is that building? Do you know called? It's an office building, but I don't know what's there.
Where is it?
It is on Third Avenue North. Is that right? Third North?
I know what you're talking about.
Where there's a parking garage under, and there's offices.
That's a brand new building.
Brand new building. It
Yeah.
was lost, and they put a replica of the house back, but it's got all that behind it. But the way it's done, you don't go down the street and go,
Look at all that.
they've wrecked the streetscape. You just don't. And I think this has a chance to be that.
Well, it doesn't extend on each side of the building.
That's right.
It goes straight back.
Go straight
Why
back.
that's successful, which may be different than this.
Yeah.
Well, this extends, yes, but when I guess, if you could show something flat from the street and how that would read. Is there a way to do that, to take a picture of what's actually there and just
Superimpose the new.
what it would look like from
Sure.
the experience from the street? Because you've given us a bird's eye view.
Well, as Tyler mentioned, the challenge is it's way back. You can see it there. And probably if we modeled this to have that dumpster enclosure and the fence, maybe you would perceive it differently?
The renderings are beautiful and they're believable, but how you're walking or driving down the street and see it matters. I'm willing to really think about, is there a way that this won't take away from the streetscape? Because I think a lot of things y'all have done are really working in its favor. So it is over, there's no question.
Yeah, and we knew
but-
that, for sure.
But it's in more of a forgiving position than a lot of things because you're still going to have how much, did you say 40, how much open space on the lot?
Oh, it's, we're using
34.
32% of the lot,
32.
so
Okay,
there's still a lot of green space.
Yeah.
It's very generous front yard and side courtyards.
now, just as far as being a preservationist, it absolutely kills my heart to see someone put an addition on something when they're not maintaining the historic home. That kills me. And so removing the aluminum siding and that being redone as part of the project would be very important to me because it would let the house read stronger than it does now. So that's just
That's what I was gonna say too
in
about,
managing change over time,
Sure.
which is what we're supposed to do.
and this rendering, the house is sort of whitewashed and devoid of details. And like if you look at a photo of the house, it has so much fine and delicate detail that it's like, it may help your case to show
Right.
the house because you're like, oh, look how detailed and ornate
That's
that is
true.
and how plain the addition is.
Exactly.
Right now, it's like, it looks
Yeah,
like,
there's even
that looks like a
windows
copy
missing.
of that house.
Yes.
Right. No, it's a good point.
But it's just all the, I mean, it's missing the gambrel roof over the porch and,
It's
that
missing
bay window
windows.
is extraordinarily detailed and,
Yeah.
and I get it, it's just a quick rendering, but I think if you're trying to convince somebody that, hey, we're really making this the star of the show and we're trying to take a background role, making the house as detailed as it actually is can help.
Yeah.
Okay, anything
I
else?
gotta-
Kath?
To talk about streetscape too, the image on the left, your rendering, it still reads as a driveway. And if you look to the left of the original house, you've got, on your plan, you've got, the walk and pavers and stuff like that. So I think to add to that, hiding the thing behind in the back addition, develop more of a streetscape around the right side of the main proper house. So it doesn't look like you're walking up a driveway. Well, you do need the dumpster, the truck to get the dumpster out of there, so
Right.
it still serves, it's not all 100% pedestrian. It's
Right.
both, right?
Right.
But in that rendering, it just reads as, driveway. So that doesn't add to the streetscape enhancement and the hide in the back of it. So I think you need to
Sure.
think about dumpster, that's always a
That's a good
toughie.
point. I think it's just gravel now, if I remember right. So we could make
So,
that.
Just
I
grab one.
mean,
better.
people are pulling up in there, how do you control when it's time for service?
You're right.
Who rolls up in there and stuff like
Right.
that too. But the left side of it is so beautifully rendered and
Mhm.
on the drawing, it seems like I need that to support the right side of the house to now tell the story. And who a better keeper to keep a old house in great shape than the church next door?
Yeah.
I mean, this
Right.
is be generational, so
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that at all. The addition part two, the crucifix form, does that form follow through to the interior, so we see those peaks?
You'll see the peaks of the inside
In the
for sure
inside.
at that level. Now,
Okay.
on the ground level, because we needed to push the box, it won't be exactly the same all the way
So I'm
down.
still trying to wrap my head around trying how to make this thing smaller, and in appearance from when I'm walking all around on the grounds back there. So is there some way you still maintain that spiritual beauty of the form that you've created here,
Yeah.
but then smash it down on the top, change the slope, reduce some of that
Sure.
form and mass to it, but still provide, because look at the church on the corner, that addition's got a flat roof on it. I'm not saying do a flat roof, but it does not put so much attention on the exterior, but still keep your beauty on the inside.
How would you feel about a portion of that being a hip roof? Like in this image, the left side being a hip roof and the right side not?
Whatever you think, it could, but I mean, you know, the form doesn't have to read to the exterior what it's doing on the interior. If that, you know.
Right.
That kind of a approach to, I'm thinking trying to reduce the size of this and then the overall massing. And then when I'm walking around on the site, I don't see all that form from the exterior.
Yeah.
I experience it on the interior.
Yeah.
And then I'm really emphasizing the main home. But and then just that streetscape, because it's almost like it's going to be, it's a compound. It's a whole complex now, and tying that back to the corner church.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to have the word compound connected.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
Considering what happened in Waco.
No. Go to the sheet to page 15. It's a rendering page. And it's an aerial view of the church. And you see how the right side is just a driveway.
Right.
I need to have that experience of the building all the way around. And that brings me to that back sanctuary anyway. So, you know, let me see some of the story to get me to the sanctuary in the back, other than just through the front. But then you've got to deal with dumpster too, so maybe dumpster finds a new home.
Yeah.
Maybe the dumpster, does the original church have a dumpster somewhere else?
Church doesn't need a dumpster.
Church doesn't need a dumpster, okay, well, then the dumpster goes.
Well, it depends on what the use of the cornhouse is.
It'll be part of the church. It'll be office space,
Okay.
classroom
So it-
space.
Education.
It won't need a dumpster.
Yay.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I think that being the most visible portion of the addition, again, with the caveat that we would even concede to something that big, but that's going to be the most visible spot. So whatever you can do, even if it's fencing, walls, landscaping, you know, thinking about that drive differently. Is it some type of drivable sod thing, or I mean, we've seen Hollywood strips, we've seen all kinds of things that make it just not a big paved area. Because what we want to avoid is creating this just kind of runway that's like, oh, well, there's the addition.
I think this drawing is deceptive because I don't think it's proportionately really that wide.
It's not currently that wide
Looks
for
like
sure.
a double driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have intentions of using that driveway as parking space, or even staff parking. So that is easy to do. We could
Yeah,
sod and walkway and make it pretty, sure.
that would matter.
And of course, landscaping and fences are no substitute for the guidelines and having what the guidelines recommend.
That's right.
And that would be my, that's where my objection is to what's being proposed, is that we do have that 50% rule in our guidelines. And if this was a residence and somebody was coming before us and wanted to put an addition this large on, I mean, I could see we might think a percentage or two, based on that. I think we've done that before. But we're talking about, 80% of the original footprint of the house? I mean, that's very large. I don't see us approving something for a residence if they came before us, or other commercial. And I have to think about, what is, for our historic character of our city and the house and our guidelines. And, that's where I'm coming from.
Sure.
Yeah. We've approved some overages, but they're usually like a real small house on a real big lot. I can think of some on Lewisburg Pike and Fair Street and things that are, it's like a 1,200 square foot house on a acre lot. It's like, well,
Right.
but this is just different. And we have different guidelines for commercial, but but, you know, we wouldn't consider this a commercial structure, even though it's been used in that format, where we consider things like downtown on Main Street. Those are commercial properties. Certainly, that's a whole different thing. They have their own guidelines because they're all attached, zero lot line, kind of different thing. So, yeah, if you can go back and think about how you might address that size thing, that's I think your biggest hurdle at this point.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah.
Probably doesn't give you the answers or confidence to make decisions one way or the other, but that's kind of where I
Are
think
you
you're hearing
all-
that's tough.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Are you all required to meet any parking requirement?
That's another process we'll have to go through. We're proposing to go through a PUD process for the parking side. There is a requirement to add parking for any additions, but in our mind, and clearly the community wants to have this church to remain downtown and be a part of the fabric of the downtown, but they're currently parking in garages that are empty on Sundays and Wednesday
Right.
nights when they meet. So there's resources around, and there's about to be a 200 parking spot resource across the street that'll be,
And they will let that be used?
yeah, I think you guys have had the conversation with the city, but that'll be done and open before they even
Right.
finish their construction.
Because with the courthouse parking garage that is now presently empty on Sunday, if
Right.
that changes use, that could not be the case. We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be more demand. I don't know, on Sunday.
Right.
Okay. Anything else, anybody? All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
it.
Okay, item number 9, discussion of Bridge Street sidewalk connection at 140, 144 First Avenue North, City of Franklin is the applicant. We'll just hear from Emily or Max. All right.
All right, y'all, last item. So Max is here to help answer any questions, but he came to us wanting to connect the existing sidewalk that's on First Avenue North with the sidewalk that's seen on Bridge Street. And so with that, there are a couple of things he wanted to bring to discuss. As you all may know, there is existing stone foundation, and we have done some digging. And so the structure that was formerly there was once a blacksmith shop, a broom shop, and then an auto body shop. And so this image is from 1978. And then this image is kind of from the side is how you would have seen it along First Avenue North. And so you can see some of the stone foundation that is along, but as you can see from current conditions, we have just a little bit of it left. And so we are looking at placing a sidewalk here, but then it brings up the question of what should occur with the existing stone foundation. And so here on this image, I can make this bigger for us. So the existing width of the sidewalk is 10 feet in width from down here, kind of close to the intersection down here. It's 10 feet in width all the way up here. But shown in the yellowish orange color on the screen, that is showing what the sidewalk would be if it were to be 4 feet in width. If it were to be 5 feet in width, it'd be all the orange plus the red. And then 10 feet is orange plus red plus green to equate to the 10. And so we have a couple options of if you all felt strongly that it should be the 10 feet, and then once it kind of gets to this foundation, it could be kind of choked down to 4 or 5 feet, and then kind of expanded back out once it kind of gets past this. But there are a couple options for you all to consider, that if the sidewalk were to be in this position, you know, what are some options that we can look at, you know, for the stones that will be in the path of the sidewalk? You know, should these stones be used to repair the rest of the existing foundation? Should those stones be moved so that they are right along the side of the sidewalk, so they are kind of keeping in spirit what the original location of the foundation was, to mark the footprint of the original footprint of the foundation on the concrete? Or the last option is that utilizing smoother kind of stones from the wall or similar to the wall to inlay into the concrete to demarcate the original location of the foundation. But just kind of wanted to get everyone's feedback, just so that we can move forward with this project, and Max kind of has his game plan of what we should do next.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything you wanted to add?
I will say that the 10-foot sidewalk is the recommended urban sidewalk for all new ones that are being implemented in the downtown area. That's pretty standard. Immediately, once I saw this, I noticed that the foundation was going to be in the way of 10-foot, and then quickly realized that even the 4-foot, which is the minimum for ADA, was likely going to affect the foundation. So at that point, that's when I engaged staff and thought, all right, we've got an opportunity to do something a little different.
So this, if I look at the images, and Emily might be able to scroll down to the picture of the wall looking towards the Quonset hut thing, that one, will the 10-foot even fit between that vehicle barrier and the sidewalk?
No, it would not.
Okay.
So it would need to go down to at least the 5 to
Get past that.
past that.
Okay. Anybody want to jump in here? Brian?
So its first use, it was a bakehouse. It was used as a bakehouse. And you can imagine, because this, to me, this is an historic site. Because right at this site is where you cross the bridge. There was once the bridge that crossed the Harpeth River at this site, and some of the stone can still be seen there. And I was hoping that in the future, the city would consider this as a type of park and some type of river overlook, and that the vision would be expanded beyond a sidewalk. And I'm just wondering, because, you know, I walk that route a lot. And I walk on the other side, which is where the Harpeth Hotel is. If you walk on this side and you wind up over to Second Avenue, there is no sidewalk to continue to the right. I mean, you have to walk on that business's property kind of and walk down a road. You have to get on the other side. So to me, to continue, let the sidewalk on the other side be the main traffic corridor and push people across the street, and not to have a sidewalk that interrupts this historic site, would be the best preservation plan. And, I mean, I just don't understand. So why is the city proposing a sidewalk on this side?
Well, it'd be to connect to the northern end, which would wrap around to, is that the jail, old jail? And then continue to Second, which at some point, Second Avenue, you know, it would be ideal to have a connection down to Bicentennial Park. That's a little bit tricky to build, but that would be the intent.
So right now, you'd have to cross the street there, Second Avenue, to the other side to grab that sidewalk to get down to Bicentennial. I mean, I've done that many times. Usually we just walk, down the street because it's easier. But there is a lot of traffic. There's a lot of traffic on that road today. But I would really like for us to really step back and consider this a historic site. I don't know any other place like this in Franklin within the city limits in such a downtown walkable area. And I think there's a lot of thought could be put into this.
Do we know the age of the foundation?
What?
That age of the foundation?
Turn of the century?
Oh, no, it's much older than that. In fact, I may be wrong on this, but Robert Rainey may have been the one that had the bakehouse. Thus, that's why the bakehouse is named on the corner, the bakehouse, because that had been a bakehouse. And Robert Rainey's may have been closer to the train station. But I don't know how old it is, to answer your question. I do not
I
know.
think it's post-war or pre?
I don't know. I would guess if I were to say either one.
Okay.
But it's an old structure that was there near the bridge.
Yeah.
And I think that the access to the bridge there is so important to the story of the Battle of Franklin, obviously, that, being able to have some sort of out-of-the-box thinking about this whole area would be very important.
I had always seen it as a pocket park with some
Yeah.
interpretive signage. And the great thing about stone foundations is you can repair them, and you can still get stone and repair them. So I had always thought that to repair the foundation, I mean, if you really, of priorities of where sidewalks are in Franklin, I don't know if I think this makes the list, because there's a good one on the other side, and there's so many places there aren't sidewalks, but choking it down could be an option. Repair the foundation. And,
But even choking it down is not, you're still going to have to take out part of the
You're gonna have to-
foundation.
you're gonna
Yeah,
have to.
that was where my
Yeah.
issue came in, is even the minimum 4 foot was gonna disturb it.
Yeah,
And
what
just
I
wanna help
kept
them
thinking, and I can't say these things correctly, but it looks like the earth falls down.
Well, there's a lot of erosion there, and the
Mm-hmm.
river was not that wide during the Civil War, am I right, Brian? I mean, it's eroded, the banks have eroded quite a
Right.
bit with floods and so forth. But my understanding is that the stone pillars for the bridge are still there.
Correct, they're
Yeah,
just,
towards the water,
But
towards the
they're in
bank.
terrible shape,
But-
too.
But even still, those are
They could be
important.
repaired.
Those are very important.
Absolutely.
And what we're talking about is a destination.
Yeah,
We're not just talking about a
exactly.
sidewalk, but
Right.
you're talking about a destination.
And see,
Absolutely, a historical site. It's,
Right.
it's very important to the story.
and you're meeting the ADA requirement on the other side. So could that, if you did it, could that just be a little footpath through there?
you're saying have 2 sidewalks and then a footpath in between?
Thinking it's
I
a
don't think we
paved,
could do
narrow
that.
thing.
You can't do that, okay.
I don't think so. Another concern that we had is just, right now, people are walking on it. I mean, you can see, even in the
Right.
images, that people are walking, and it's, to some point, not helpful for maintaining that foundation. I mean, they're tearing it up just by walking over it. And so,
Well, there are do not trespass signs, two of them in that area. And, you may have to put something a little more,
Aggressive.
right in the way. I mean, I don't know, if you don't want people walking through there.
They'll just climb over it.
Yeah, or just walk around it. Or let people make their own path.
Oh, that's what I was.
Looks like they have, if you look at that picture.
Kathy, any thoughts?
I'm leaning to preserve it for what it is. Don't do the sidewalk at all. Create a U detour. Give me a stopping point of the sidewalk before the foundation, and make me cross the street, go down the other side. I can come back once I clear it. So I'm kind of like framing it with crosswalks on either side.
mid-block crossings?
Yeah.
That traffic.
Won't let
I would discourage, I would discourage that.
It's not gonna, well, people are still gonna take the shortest route, but.
This,
Yeah.
yeah, what's interesting, there's, it's not necessarily this urban, but reminds me of the Middleton plantation in Charleston.
Yeah.
They've got these ruins of these buildings that were demolished in earthquake, I think. And you can get on top of the foundations, you just go up the front steps of the house and they just have one little path paved in the middle. And you're looking at the ruins on each side. That doesn't get it wheelchair accessible, but it's still an accessible route, like stairs are accessible routes as well. So I don't know if you could walk up on this foundation and back over it or something or create a thing, but
Build a ramp.
yeah, with the ramp, it's a
Bridge
big,
and a ramp and a bridge.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
this path area is in the city's long-range plans for the trail system. And if we're talking about making it a park someday, it hasn't been city-owned that long, but it's been a long process to get it to be city-owned. And if we do want it to be something greater someday, we do need pedestrians to be able to walk to it and to experience it once they get there. So could you all think about kind of the least intrusive way to get a sidewalk through this area? You're thinking about the 4-foot option to choke that down. What would be the next best opportunity to help preserve the remainder of that foundation and
A boardwalk.
Yeah. Well, it's part of it's the proximity to the road and, dig up that foundation. It's just, it's gone. And where are we going to, moving it parallel to the sidewalk is not the shape of the building that was there. So we're giving up, we'll be giving up a lot of what little we have left of the building. I think that's the problem. And, I work downtown in Nashville, being downtown, and there's lots of times I go somewhere and the crosswalk's behind me. You have to go back and across. Still a path. It just does not a path on both sides. So I don't know. I don't feel that good about putting a sidewalk through the foundation of that old building. Kathy?
So with hearing what you just told us about future and still wanting to get people to go to it, the 4 options that you have listed are like, are considerations of what would really probably work, thinking of the future and the trail path and all these other components. So those were the 4.
And they were just to get your thoughts going. They weren't, I don't want to say set in stone, but, right,
Yeah.
so it's just kind of to get,
Yeah.
that wheel going and.
If you think about like what we did at Harlansdale with the interurban, would you rather have a piece of the interurban or that stamped concrete? You'd much rather have a piece of the interurban railroad. You would have went, yeah, let's keep this little section. I mean, we have it. That's kind of,
Well,
Yeah.
that, to me, that little area is kind of a breath of green.
Could
So
be.
I'd have to see, I would like to see why that, and I'm a big sidewalk trails person, but I'd like to understand why that needs to be a paved sidewalk versus something softer, like,
It can be soft. I mean, you can have a path like you would see in Harlingsdale.
that's what I would see.
But it would remain, it would,
You've still got the obstacle of the stone wall in the
you would
middle
still
of
have
it.
the obstacle of the stone wall
Yeah.
and people walking over. I mean, we would not construct it.
Right.
That would be,
It's either you've got to have a sidewalk or you don't have a sidewalk, it seems to
Well,
me.
correct.
To me, if the foundation was rebuilt and if you did something to mark that one side, I think you said an option of smooth stones.
Can
And
I-
if it all got rebuilt and there was interpretive signage, that might be a fair trade to me,
Yeah.
because you would ensure that it stayed for generations as an not really, I guess you shouldn't say, do you call that an archaeological site?
I call it a
Yeah.
historic site.
A
Yeah,
historic site.
for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if, does the sidewalk have to be right up on the road?
Can it swing out around towards the river?
Well, I'm not thinking all the way to the river because the riverbank is going to become a problem. But
Yeah.
if it came in like you were going to the inside of this building, right inside the wall, and then the side that's on the picture, you break the wall and just make a gap, take everything you take from here. And what I don't want to lose is the corners of the building. You just
Well, I
walk
like
through it.
what you're saying.
I don't know if that overcomplicates things, and if you could make sense of where some of the original openings were above, it's like, okay, well, now you're walking through a piece of something instead of it kind of being an afterthought of, well, we needed a sidewalk because, we could move the road, but we like our cars worse than we like this building. It's like, that's really the fact of it is, well, we'd rather have better traffic patterns than, the sidewalk, and then this building is last on the list. It's like, well,
And if we're historic Franklin, if that's
Yeah.
our tagline, then as much as you would want to build a sidewalk, you want to save these ruins.
It's important,
So it's,
in my mind.
to me, a project that includes both.
So if you go to Bicentennial Park today, there's an overlook. It has piers that go out all over the bank. If you go on some of the metro greenways, and they're by the river, they're river trails, they're on boardwalks that go out a little bit.
That's what I
Over
was-
the bank.
yeah.
Just go around it.
Just go around it on
Exactly.
that side and build like you did at Bicentennial Park, and you could get right around it. It'd take you between the bridge and then this structure and on around. I mean, it could,
It
like I
could
said,
be
it's a
so
destination.
interesting.
it almost makes your park for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's,
Yeah.
it's more, what's one word I'm trying to say? It's more of an experience.
Very
Than
much
just
so.
walking everywhere. We just walk down a sidewalk and we just have the river kind of overgrown.
And miss the whole
Except at
moment of that
Bicentennial.
area. It's not just this building, but, it's also the bridge abutments that were there.
The bridge abutments.
That are so important. So I think you could, if you did that sort of treatment, I think
Yeah.
you'd be able to, as you say, create your own park with the way you bring it around. It could be very interesting.
And sometimes, if you have a big dream, sometimes it's easier to get grants attracted to it too.
More information than you wanted.
No, it was as much as I wanted. I wanted to ask first before
Yes,
acting.
we
because
appreciate it.
When you see
Thank
stones
you.
on the ground, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
realize there's something that
Yes.
is more to the story. So what I heard tonight, correct me if I'm wrong, is no to a sidewalk. We're not necessarily interested in just straight down the road, let's put a sidewalk in and give maybe some credence that there was
Right.
something important there at one point in time. Instead, punt it, it may take 10 years, 20 years, who knows how long, but more of a park that you would go through and incorporate the river, incorporate the bridge,
Yeah.
Right.
incorporate the
I think
building.
it's worth a longer creative look on how to do something to keep what we've got left.
I agree.
Even if it includes
So-
repairing what's fallen over and just,
Right.
because soon as people are over here and the trespassing signs are gone, and kids climb on things so I think it's got to be looked at all together. Otherwise, I think we miss opportunities. It's like, well, we got the sidewalk, but we lost part of a wall and it's still a mess. And if we can do it all together, I think we get something that's just good for all parties.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
And thank goodness, we've got the sidewalk on the other side.
Yeah.
So,
Is there
that-
something that we can do to maintain the foundation before it gets trampled on?
There's nothing that I can do.
no,
What I'm more
But I'm
concerned
sure
about
there's
is people
things that can be
stealing the stones. I say stealing, taking one of the big stones, put it in their car or their truck, and that's been known to happen.
that's been, I saw that one time a long time ago. I mean,
Well, maybe fencing it, recognizing it
Right.
as a historical
right.
Well,
foundation.
and restoring that wall would help
If
make it
there-
a little bit more secure too.
if there was
They're just
even-
loose stones right now.
Just, if there was just simple wire fencing that said historic archaeological site,
People would probably be more likely to leave it
more
alone.
likely to be respectful of.
Yes, ma'am.
Honestly, the aerial view of this looks like the erosion is really encroaching up there on that, towards where you're wanting to put a sidewalk. So I think some more thought needs to be put towards that.
Do you have something, Emily?
I did. So just to clarify, if the sidewalk were to be brought down a little bit closer, not to come all the way to the guardrail, but if it were to come a little bit farther in, kind of like where my mouse is, kind of in this little vicinity.
You mean come into the road?
Well, continue along its path.
Expand what's there, but not connect it yet.
Right.
I think you could do that. I mean,
No, okay.
wait,
wanted to
wait
ask
till
while
you
we
can
were
connect it. That's the point, right?
You're going to wait until there
Yeah.
is a connection possible.
Well,
Having it on either, to your point,
Right.
almost invites people to walk.
Exactly.
walk through it,
Exactly.
yeah.
Which I would
Well, we appreciate you involving us.
Yeah.
Does the expansion of the bridge affect kind of what we're looking at in this area?
It's around the corner a little
It's around the corner.
I'd love to see a pedestrian bridge put back where the old bridge was.
Exactly.
That would really make a real park,
A pedestrian bridge.
like a pedestrian-only bridge using the old abutments.
Oh, wouldn't that, yeah.
And
Yeah.
just to go
There are a lot of
across and make a
people who would
whole.
love to see that happen.
I think.
That's been-
Where's that guy
the
said it was all his
pedestrian
prayers and
bridge
his
at
money?
Harlan
We need
Station.
him, Mr. Corn.
We got a grant for it. Over the river.
It's a big deal.
No, ma'am, no, sir, the one at Harlan.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we did for that one too. We got a grant for that one too.
Yeah.
So a big dream can attract
Support.
support,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, think big picture.
Thank you for the input.
Thank you.
Thank you
Anything
for
else,
coming.
anybody? Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. All right, everybody. Staff announcements, please.
I'll make it quick. The August 10th Historic Zoning Commission application deadline is this Friday, July 24th by 11:59 at night. And just as a heads up, there will be a special joint DRC and BOMA site visit of the new City Hall construction planned for into September. That will take place before our regularly scheduled DRC meeting. So please be on the lookout for additional information and a calendar invite for that meeting upcoming soon.
Okay,
And everything's looking good.
Fun.
I think. The more I see it, I think, wow, the way it goes up, it's not as intrusive to the Third Avenue side of it, with Church Street. I mean, it's looking, I think it's pleasant. It's pleasant.
All thanks to you all providing all the feedback after countless meetings.
not taking credit for any of that.
Countless. Well, I'm excited about the open space we're going to have. I've been going for a couple of meetings up on Cool Springs where they've got that big open green area, and it's wonderful. It's got pavilion, shade over it, and people are out there. So personally, I'm excited about that
Yep.
part.
It's great. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Thanks.
Thank you.